Craig. Um, so last time on Well Dressed Bones, we had our party have our 1 month break, downtime to take care of some activities, take care of some life stuff, as well as come to some revelations, research some secrets, find out some things about various powers and relationships. Um, and now we are reconvening again. During the downtime, May has done more research into the company that seems to be associated with maybe the Triumvirate and maybe Jonas, and found that it is actually holding a auction of Chinese antiquities that a lot of governments are interested in, and among those items up for auction seems to be some potentially dangerous artifacts of the ancients that are reminiscent of the ampule. So May definitely needs to check it out, and after pulling in a lot of her contacts and relationships with other sanctuaries, has gotten funding from the Canadian sanctuary to potentially bid on this thing, as well as support from the British sanctuary, where May has a lot of prior professional relationships, and they have a decently close relationship with the Chinese, about as close as any Western country right now, mostly out of necessity because the auction is being held just over the border from currently British Hong Kong. And after potentially wanting to go through with it by themselves, was convinced to bring the others along and go on this adventure to China. In research to prepare for this, you found that the Chinese political situation is rather complicated, both from the governmental side and from the magical side. It's a very complicated network of interrelated groups that sort of function in aggregate as a sanctuary, but bigger. Of course, in the sanctuary of the books, as well as in the Canadian sanctuary you have experience with, there is the sorcerers of the sanctuary, and then there are people who, to greater or lesser extents, acknowledge their influence and power. And some of them, Roarhaven or Dog Creek in Canada, are actively against that power. Not so in China, where absolutely everyone, including a lot of non-magical people, but who come from magical families or have relatives who are magical or just got involved in that world in some way, are members of this house system that means it is a much more all-encompassing political situation than you are probably used to, and something you only just got the edges of in Korea, which uses a offshoot system that functions similarly but is not as all-encompassing. Uh, at the same time, Fish learned of a much deeper connection between them and Jonas, as Jonas has seemingly over the past years and primarily unbeknownst to Fish, been something of a magical cancer and has spread across their magic and their connections to other people, and does seem to be kind of feeding off Fish as well as feeding off people connected to Fish. Um, the extent of that and the effect of it, you don't know, but uh, because of a possible slip up on Jonas's part, communicating somewhat directly to Cal, does imply that there is a magical connection with all of you with Jonas because of Fish's power. Um, what that exactly means, you're not sure, but it is a very dangerous situation and one that uh, Fish is going to have to spend a lot of time kind of sorting through and figuring out because it is so entangled with what their magic is. And speaking of Jonas, Fish has also been having more visions about this person, this seemingly young boy, somewhere in America, probably homeless, named Henry, who is seeing people possessed by remnants as well as other kind of monstrosities in his vicinity. Why these visions exist or how they're tied to Fish, Fish doesn't know, but maybe something happening there. Um, Meanwhile, Cal's goals were also introspective, dealing with the functioning of her temple in her downtime, getting a lot of her temple on the same page, improving its relationships and its functioning together, as well as working to develop her temple into a resource for the necromantic community. A lot of sharing information, a lot of collating information from other necromancers and necromancer adjacent groups. And in the process, discovered that although Wreath had implied that this was a problem with the black dog like creature slash some sort of assailant, maybe associated with the triumvirate that had been attacking necromantic communities. Cal has now found that it is even more pervasive than that, and due to the danger regarding that, when Elise found that some of her little offshoot chapels and ministries were being affected in sort of an indirect way, she went herself because it's now a bigger threat that needs to be dealt with. Um, so with everyone gearing up to head to Hong Kong, I would like to step backward very slightly in time by saying that once May was convinced she needed to go to Hong Kong, Stinner would have not been thrilled about it. He has mentioned to you previously that southern China is still actively experiencing fighting. There are still some militant groups resisting Communist Party rule in this area, as well as Republican insurgents coming over the border to invade and conduct attacks against the government. And this point in history, Chinese government is very much in flux and very dangerous. A lot of reversing decisions day by day. A lot of violence or destruction being perpetrated kind of without permission or without knowledge. And this is a really dangerous place. But in trying to repair their relationship and make their make their worries perhaps less severe. Um, uh, Sinner has instead helped however he could by just giving advice on places and areas to avoid because they have more fighting or more danger, tips to keep May safe, and overall seems, committed to trying to make things work, especially coming from a place of honesty and not, punishing May by being honest about where she's going and what she's doing by becoming more worried and more protective and more restrictive of her. Um, but that all ends with you on a plane where, after a fairly long flight, and at this point in time, a number of refueling stops, you have flown across the sea to land in Hong Kong. And that is where we will open today's session. stepping out onto the curb in the airport, having gotten your stuff. I don't know if you, flew somewhat directly from Canada or if you needed to swing back to Sudan for any reason, but you are now all here. What was the flight like? You all good? Been avoiding each other.
Yeah,
What's Cal wearing in in another kind of public setting where a veil would be not suspicious but remarked upon?
Mm.
Well, back to the Korea look. Hair scarf, sunglasses, glasses, normie clothes.
Hmm.
But it was a burqa on the plane.
Mm.
I was just having the thought that why is Fish even coming? Because May, I don't think the invitation would even be open at this time. I think like they just kind of followed along and were like, no, stay back. Kept following along. All right, fine.
They did offer to May. May was like,
Yes.
sure,
Yeah.
whatever.
Okay.
Kind of, yeah. Yeah. The jury is out for that at the moment with Fish.
Has
Yeah.
Fish revealed at all this kind of deeper connection to Jonas, so that May can say, I told you so?
Well, so when taking her aside to like attempt to apologize, they alluded to something that the two of them needed to talk about that they weren't going to get into at the time, which was absolutely 100%. By the way, you were right. Really, they're just, but it's like, oh, we're going on an adventure. Okay, well, it would probably be wrong to like bring that up now because we're busy. Like, not considering that this is important and relevant directly.
And then you just sit on a plane next to each other and don't talk about it.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
May
May would fall asleep very quickly. She'd start being like,
frozen.
Absolutely frozen.
oh,
Now you're
lost
back.
you guys for a second. Yeah. I was gonna say it would be like 5 minutes of May like not outright ignoring Fish, but only engaging if engaged with, and then she'd just fall asleep anyway.
Yeah, so Fish recognizes that and is just like, yeah, we're just going to do the job. And then later on, the two of us will just have a nice and frank discussion about the cancer that I've got.
Yeah. And then May can be like, why didn't you tell me about this, that he was maybe spying on us when I was going to find these dangerous magical objects?
Oh, well, Ellie, you see, that's
exactly.
That's the purpose of this.
I think also on kind of like May, it seems like she kind of she's stubborn. She makes up her mind and then just kind of operates as if she's right. Has been the problem with Sinner and going to North Korea, but I think maybe some logical part of May is like, we are going to be interacting with the Bayutu medical group. We're going to be doing potentially Jonas stuff. Maybe having the Jonas person will help in some way.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. She's not going to be like cold forever, but she's kind of like, cool, didn't expect you to be here. Glad you're along, but now I got to factor this into my whole vibe for the trip.
She has every right.
Yeah, she gets off the plane well rested. She's that fucking asshole who sleeps anywhere, anytime.
Yeah, not me. I can tell you. I can tell you some stories about a flight to England in which I did not sleep the entire time, and then had to take.
Yeah, I can't sleep on planes.
And then had to take a tour of London after being awake for like 26 hours at that point.
Yeah, not sleeping on planes is aspirational for me. Let's put it that way.
What about Fish? Has Fish? It's a fairly long flight. Was Fish able to sleep at all, or have they slept since the kind of call to adventure in this way?
Yeah, a little. Mostly looking out the window and being like, with Kekano, like, look at things. Right. Grant, we are going into communist China. Are we allowed to have a dog, a quote unquote dog on the plane?
Kekano is probably
Oh,
required to be crated, but is not like put in the hold or
Aw.
something. Is allowed to be like in your lap, and
you know what I just
Kekano.
thought about as well? This would be back in the time when they were hardcore smoking and playing still, right? So Fish
Oh
is like,
yeah, no, absolutely, no. Fish is like there is so much just like nicotine
They're
absorbing through
white
your
knuckled.
skin in the air. Kekano is trying to save you by like sitting on his lap, sitting on your lap in his little crate and going like, and just like blowing
and
it out
Fish
of
is
your
just
face.
getting the nicotine through the
Yeah,
connection because wired.
Yeah. And so, like, since it's that, like, the physical dependency that is what they had away, it's the habit. It's just like, but still, it's so far, it's so fucked.
and
Um,
really reminding you of all the times you've like caught smokes and like meeting other people as you're both smoking outside or something, and being like, people are smoking, therefore I am also smoking because we share cigarettes. And Callum May are like,
uh,
it's gross here.
funny thought I had. What if their landlady smokes? Anyway, yeah, they get some sleep eventually, and they're also. I actually, for once, well, no, last time for Korea, I didn't figure out what actually they're wearing, but they're freaking it normal style.
Freaking it normal style. Oh my
Yeah,
goodness. With the skinny tie too.
yeah.
Um then
Just to be like, I'm professional.
professional. um as you sleep, you find yourself dreaming, and the dreams are maybe becoming more frequent, more intense as you close your eyes and open Henry's eyes. Um, it's a only been maybe 14, 15 hours since the last vision. He's not jacking it. He doesn't have a convenient home. It becomes dangerous. Um, um, but um, you find yourself in Henry's perspective, um, scrounging through dumpsters as cars drive by and people ignore you. You feel isolated and alone, but every once in a while you see a glimpse of concern from someone passing by. You know that this is your hometown. These people know you. And those that are choosing not to see you are, in fact, choosing not to see you. Some are concerned about what you're doing, how you're doing, and others aren't. You see some of these others as monstrous things, insectile, clicking mandibles as they pass you on a street corner. You ask for change. Others misshapen and small blob-like creatures in the shape of people you used to know. And every once in a while, people normal, friendly, with these black veins running through them. As you enter the vision, you feel, God, you're so hungry. And you do something you don't want to do, something you avoid doing. something which you've only done at your most desperate, and something that to you, in your mind, got your mother killed. And so you push into a diner, local place. It's sort of that strange time, 3, 4 o'clock. Nobody's here for lunch and nobody's here for dinner yet either. Everything's slow and it's empty. Perfect time of day to beg or steal or do what you're going to do. And as you step up to the counter, Mr. Vargas owes this place. You've known him a long time, and you came here with your family in happier times. And he says, "Sorry, Henry, I don't have anything for you. It's we've all got to tighten the belt around here, so and you hear yourself speak. I just need food, please." No, you can't. And then something within you, something that is uncomfortable, something you hate, cancer within you almost, like the one that took your mother, wells up into your throat, and you hear yourself say, "Aren't you going to give me the meal I already paid for?" And you see the diner owner seem confused for a moment, and his eyes glaze over, and then, "Right, yeah, no, you did pay me. Sorry, what was the order? My mind must have. Of course, no, absolutely, I'll get you that sandwich right now." And you hate yourself as you took this man's will away.
Devastating.
And as you sit in this diner and eat a sandwich, you wake up on the plane. An evil sandwich for an evil boy. And I think you've noticed not only are the visions coming more frequently, but you're starting to align with Henry's thoughts. Before, you only saw from his perspective, saw what he saw, heard what he heard. Now you're starting to feel what he's feeling, think what he's thinking. You know a little bit more about him. You know he's 19. And you know that in the back of his mind, he could go home. But only if he wanted a lot of other people to die. And you wake up on the plane, headed to Hong Kong.
Mm.
As you've touched down in the airport, gotten your luggage, gotten all your stuff, you are heading out. Cal probably takes a little dip into the bathroom to strip off the burqa for the normal clothes she was probably already wearing underneath. And you see, as is very common in a lot of airports, a row of men in somewhat black suits holding little signs with little names on them. And as you go down the line, no, no, no. and then most of the way down, you get to a guy wearing sunglasses and an old button-up like sports jacket with Manchester United on it, bright red, holding a sign that says "Gladly."
May immediately, heads over, sticks out her hand, and says, "You must be the driver."
Oh, you Gladly?
I might be. I'm certainly happy.
All right. Well, I'm Agent Merity, represent Her Majesty's Sanctuary here in Hong Kong, and let's get you where you need to go.
Legend. Pleasure to meet you, Agent. So, Patrick, was it Merity?
Temerity.
Temerity, yeah.
I'm trying to
Agent
do a
Temerity,
scout
pleasure.
accent, which eats a lot of consonants.
May gives him a firm handshake, claps him on the back, and says, "This is my associate Fish, Mononym, and this is my associate." Sorry, is Cal going by actual name, or is she using?
You're muted.
You're muted.
You're muted.
You're muted.
If May has a pause, it's like, which one are you going? She'd be like, short, as in like,
Now,
short
yeah.
for Claire Dennis.
Yeah, Claire Dennis. Okay, cool. And this is my colleague Claire Dennis. I'm very excited to get going.
Fish totally accepts that they've been introduced to, like, we can trust this guy, but like they straighten out their suit jacket and go, and when it's all business time, you're to call me Mr. Perch. That's what their alias for today is going to be.
Agent Temerity shakes your hand. May can see a little bit of like. He seems a little. He seems like friendly and jovial and relaxed. But you can see kind of the gaze sharpen a little bit as he's assessing you and your friends. And it is probably a thing of like, it's not just you came over and said, "I'm the person you're looking for." You also like match a description or a photo he has or something like that. And and like Fish is like, "Oh yeah, Fish. Oh, of course, Miss Perch," and give you a firm handshake. Claire Dennis, he seems like a little confused and is kind of like shooting a glance over of like he expected someone else. So it's like he was looking for May. He probably knows who Fish and Cal are, based on reputation at least, and is a little surprised to find a normal woman named Claire here instead of.
If Cal gets that vibe at all, she definitely gives the look of like, nope, it's just me. Girl isn't available. Just going about, what do what can you do?
Yeah,
Yeah.
my deadbeat Abbott sent me.
Yeah.
This is our backup Necro.
But as he helps you grab your bags and gets you to the car, it seems pretty clear that he's like, yeah, welcome to Hong Kong. It's such a great place. It's like, we're not talking business out in the open. We're waiting until we get in the car.
Of course not.
And as you all load in, he does also seem to be the driver. The car starts and you take off. I kind of assume May would sit next to him up front, but that doesn't have to be true.
No, she would. Yeah, she's running this show.
In the back seat, it goes Fish at window, Kekano in kennel in middle seat, Cal at other window.
The sweet
Diana
Dorset
car
Jones.
crash.
The serenade song of a big city.
Yeah.
Agent Temerity, who you were told to expect, May, this is your contact, you were told by the British, swears in Cantonese as people don't properly let him into lanes as he drives away from the airport. And you are now in the car with what May understands to be, and may have shared with the others, may not have. May understands to be kind of the supreme British magical power in the city of Hong Kong. Hong Kong is a small city and far from the British mainland, but it's still, at least the British Sanctuary claims it. So they've got a guy representing them here who is in charge of seemingly everything for the whole city for them. I don't think that with the political, with not knowing the intricacies of the British Sanctuary political scheme right now, May would get the sense of being like, either this guy is a city far away from home and far away from everyone else because he's a fuck up and we want to get rid of him, or this guy is,
The load bearing.
managing a city by himself in an incredibly fraught political situation with a hostile neighbor next door and is therefore very trusted. May doesn't really know the inner workings of which one this guy falls under, but you have enough of a professional working relationship with certain people in the British Sanctuary that you feel like you would have at least gotten a warning of some kind, even if a subtle one, of being like, this guy is your contact, you cannot rely on him. And you didn't. So it seems like maybe he is more of the trusted load-bearing pillar of British sorceress society here than a weird fuck-up from far away.
Love it.
But as you're driving away, he's just all business. He's just like, so I got you lodging in the sanctuary proper, and got a place to stay. Obviously, my understanding of your mission, and you can add more if you think it's tactically relevant for me, if you need to keep it secret. I got that you got a auction north of the border with a Chinese company for some important magical artifact that you are retrieving for the Canadians. As you promised us, we promised support and introductions. So we've got some housing for you here, but if you need to find a place north of the border, crossing is pretty difficult. So it may work out to get somewhere a little closer in Guangzhou proper. And yeah, anything we can do to help. Unfortunately, I've got some bad news. We promised introductions. It seems like the auction was a little more popular, perhaps, than powers that be were anticipating. So they've actually closed it to new bidders. But we've reached out to the heads over the border in Guangzhou in the Heavenly House of the Ram, and they are, on our recommendation, willing to sort of sponsor you to be one of their people and be involved in their negotiating. And yeah, we can just make the introductions. They want to meet you. Nothing is not quite set in stone yet, but we've got an appointment. We've got a place to set up.
Right. Well, it wouldn't be a vaguely important mission if something didn't go awry. Am I wrong? Hugely appreciate that, though. I love the workaround. You had me going for a second there. I was worried, but knew the sanctuary would come through.
Nah, it's a complicated place. Lots of moving parts around here, but important things happening. Gotta make do. We've got a lot of still, even after all this time, a lot of home Brits coming back over the border looking for a way out. Sorcerers that their house, whatever, isn't in favor. A lot of Heavenly House of the Dragon people. You understand what's going on with them? They're mostly over in Taiwan, supporting the yellow government. So a lot of people left behind who found it was better to kind of make their way to safer shores coming across the border.
Yeah, I've got a vague sense of the situation, but I'll always welcome more. With these introductions, anything we should know? I'd like to think I'm a charming person, but, anything extra can help.
I got some files back at the office that we'll want you to
Perfect.
look over after you set up, drop your stuff down. Don't know if you want to set the meeting up today based on our talks. They do have some time a little bit later this afternoon. But, if you want to do it tomorrow, to get some winks, I understand.
May kind of like looks over her shoulder at Cal and Fish and says, "Well, I'm feeling pretty well rested. How do you both feel about getting straight into it?"
Fish goes, well, I wanted to have a look through the lot catalog, but I can do that, plenty of time to do that. Let's get into it.
Claire? Thoughts?
Claire is just like, the sooner it's done, the sooner we all go home.
We're all very enthusiastic here, Mr. Merity. Well, let's get it booked and ready to go, and once we arrive at the sanctuary to set up, if you could give Mr. Fish here a look at the lot.
Yeah, we've got the catalog back at the base as well. It's we'll swing by there, we'll get some things, and then we'll start getting you across the water. As you drive kind of into more downtown Hong Kong, this is not quite as built up as it is in the present day. It's still an urban area, but like the skyscrapers are more like, on average 6 stories tall instead of like 30. As you are led to one of these office buildings, you park in a secure garage and are led up to a office, not a residential area, like an office with other people, assumedly mortals, around, and you enter a little office marked for Portsmouth Consultancy Incorporated, and find essentially on one side a small office, one desk that is like very clearly regularly used, and a couple other desks that are just like empty and waiting for someone to fill them. Maybe no other permanent staff. A file room, a small weapons locker, just the standard home away from home base stuff. And with its own separate opening onto the hallway and a pass through into the office is essentially apartments. You can get in, and he says that of like the 12 available, only 2 are occupied right now, so you can take as many or as few as you want, and you have each is just like a mini apartment with a small kitchenette, decent sized bed, half bath, kind of thing. Just like a little small, like, and clearly this place is not zoned for residential, but what seems to be kind of like a halfway house for people who are on the run from the Chinese government or need a place to stay before the sanctuary can get them back to England or wherever they're going. Like, clearly this little office is like the kingdom of the British sanctuary that is here. This is their center of power, as incredibly unimpressive as it is compared to what you're used to.
May, seeing the lack of staff, turns to him and says, Mr. Temerity, Don't tell me you're here by yourself.
I've got a couple of friends that help out every now and again. Uh, I'm not shy about a hard day's graft.
Understood, heard, recognized. I do hope they're paying you somewhat, decently.
Oh, yeah, probably.
Hmm.
He takes off his sunglasses now that he's no longer driving, and you just you almost look from him to Cal to back to him as he's just got the deep engraved bags under his eyes of someone who has moved beyond not sleeping regularly into now gets 3 hours a night and thinks that's totally normal.
Yeah.
This man is supporting an entire little nation state, a little city state
Yeah.
on his back, essentially. Administrator and Grand Mage and agent all at once.
Poor bastard. Well, May is going to take the room that has a good view out into the city so she can get a lay of the land.
Yeah.
If there is one.
Yeah, absolutely. The view is not spectacular just because you are kind of in the downtown area, so it's a lot of other buildings that you're looking at. But yeah, you can all pick out rooms and you can get one with a decent view. The kind of feel of the city as you're looking out, as you're dropping off your stuff and looking out the windows is a city still in transition. There's a lot of very a lot of modern cars, a lot of cityscapes and modern roadways and stuff, and there's a roadway you can see from where you are completely taken over by a very traditional looking Chinese market. There's tons of people riding bicycles and scooters everywhere, and it's fairly crowded. There is not, as you can see from here, seemingly a huge population of kind of Westerners, a lot of Asian-looking, assumedly Chinese people, and I think it probably occurred to you that with the trouble in China, there were a lot of Chinese people who also came to Hong Kong of being I don't want to be in a country in the middle of revolution right now. If I have the money and connections to get across. But yeah, it just feels like a city that's still kind of finding itself, halfway torn between a very European city and a very Chinese city.
Mm. Fishers put their shit in the room that they've picked out and taken Kekano out of his kennel and asked him how he is.
Hi, Dad. That was kind of scary at the plane because there was a lot of smoke everywhere and you seemed to really be not doing good. And after a while, I kept telling you about clams and it didn't seem to be working anymore. So I started talking about other stuff. But you didn't really respond to games of tag or fluffy pillows or any of the other things that I like that usually calm people down. So I'm sorry I couldn't help more.
It's not your fault, buddy. I mean, I've got stuff on my mind, but it's definitely mostly the smoke that was agitating me and nothing else.
Okay, and I'm sorry because, when I try to calm people down, I like to also talk about things they liked. And I'm sorry I said cigarettes because that was the
Oh,
bad thing to say in that
no,
moment. And I know that didn't help.
buddy, my beautiful little boy.
Things to
Everything's
calm down,
okay.
Dad. Cigarettes.
It's okay. It's all right. How do you feel about sticking by Denier again for this one?
Okay. Am I going to be a dog, or am I going to be a seal, or am I going to be a little dog seal, or?
Well, that kind of depends on how accepting the general community would be of whatever.
Dad, you just tell me what I need to do, and I am on it, because I am Agent Kekino.
Yeah, you are detective agent, and
Detective
you.
Agent Special Investigator research assistant, necromancer in training, Kekino.
Yep. And since it's just the one guy taking care of things, I think we can like put you down as an elder as well. Don't you think?
I can be an elder of the not sanctuary in here in
Yeah.
Hong
I mean, like,
Kong.
why not? Who's gonna stop us?
Oh my goodness. Okay, we'll have to get me like a nice robe so I can be like, I'm the elder. Respect
Mm,
me.
mm-hmm. I like the sound of that. All right,
Yeah,
buddy. Let's
elder
let's be
Kekino.
useful.
Yeah, let's be useful. Let's see if maybe he's got like any snacks that we need to eat, or I guess paperwork we can read maybe. Um
That's I'm gonna start with the lot catalog.
okay, that sounds good. I think you can start with the catalog and I will start with the snacks.
Good.
As everybody kind of settles in, puts their stuff down, I think you can absolutely look for a place to stay that's across the border, closer to where you're um, going to be having these meetings and stuff. But at least for right now, a fallback point in a friendly country to you is probably for the best. So you only, take things with you that you think you might need for an upcoming meeting. Probably means no obvious weapons, but
Hey,
there's
May just needs cat.
yeah, there's a lot of non-obvious weapons at your disposal that mortal guards would not be able to identify. Um, and
May would specifically like to ask Temerity about maps. Just
mhm,
get a lay of the land, both here and across the border.
mhm. Um, as as you come in on and see Temerity, um, uh, he is on the phone and like also shuffling papers, just like standing at his desk, like putting everything up. He's like, ah, 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 okay, hang on. Wow, Sergeant. We're set up for in a couple hours to have this meeting.
Perfect.
Okay, I got okay. Stack of papers. This is on the is the most relevant House of Ram stuff, and we got a catalog over here, and and it's absolutely like the organized chaos of someone who doesn't have anyone to share a workspace with, so it kind of devolves into your own system in just a terrible and chaotic way. So like he's like, okay, yes, the catalog. We move this stack of paper and the three empty coffee cups, and of course that's where the catalog sits.
Yeah.
And he's sliding that across the table to all of you. And you ask him about maps, right?
Yeah, specifically a map of Hong Kong. Be great if there was a map like between the showing the border area and then a map of Guangzhou. May
Okay.
basically wants to get a lay of the land, major landmarks. God forbid if they get stuck there, like be able to somewhat kind of have an idea of the direction to go back.
Okay. As he slides papers across to you, you can kind of hear him like mumbling to himself, maybe in Cantonese, as he like disappears into a back room and he comes back with a map for you that looks like it has not necessarily been updated recently, so it may not show like current border security, but it does show kind of northern Hong Kong and the border with Shenzhen, and as well as some general kind of city maps. Um, he does get you a map of Guangzhou, but it is heavily annotated in that way of being like making it almost unreadable, like as a map. Um, and yeah, I think he would annotate it in English. So I think you see that it is like an old map showing like troop movements and like this quarter of the city has fallen, this temple has been destroyed, like things like that. It was clearly used to like record information, which means it may not be the most up to date or readable, but is something. You know, you won't be completely lost.
Okay. May is going to record the ball with Kat, and can I do? I feel like a perception roll to try and hear past the annotations for the map of Guangzhou.
Give me a cartography roll.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, with your cartography skills. I think it's
efficiency bonus for.
more a matter of being like, okay, so this is, you know, this red ink is probably with a marker, you know, but they print it in black. So if I hold it up to the light, I can tell by the shine of like where there are lines underneath.
All right, let's see. Dirty 21, not bad.
All right, yeah.
Please don't get rid of us, Ellie.
Please.
That's a whimpering.
Yeah, it's not like, once again, this may just be out of date because of changes to the city in the meantime, but you can see past the annotations fairly well. And with that 21, I'll say that in kind of the middle of shuffling papers and stuff, Temerity reaches over and taps a neighborhood kind of southeast of the city, where he tells you the House of the Ram kind of extended compound is. And once it points out to you and you can like see it, it is like, it does like, it looked like kind of like the footprint you would see on a city map of like office buildings or something, or an office complex. And once it's like, oh, that's the compound, you're like, oh, okay, this entire square block and like a couple of the blocks next to it are just this compound. And yeah, this is, you know, the closest thing to a sanctuary for them, so it's a big place. And he's got the information as well for the like major house members and a little bit of notations about local politics. What is Cal doing in this moment as she now gets to unpack all of her nice clothes and be like, I have a very important meeting I was not preparing for that's going to happen in like 3 hours.
Cal is there fully for supporting May, and unlike going on a trip to support Fish, where she doesn't want to acknowledge that at all, and is just like, this sucks, and I need to get it over with. I think she would just be very like, what is the most helpful to May? She picks the room next to May's just to be there, conveniently sharing a wall. She's like, well, if the whole thing is, why the fuck is this lady here? Just being like something very like nice looking but like subservient kind of outfit of being very nondescript but nice and classy. And when she feels settled in, would probably just go over to May's room and just be like, all right, boss, what do you need me to do? What is most helpful? Also, how can we get this so I can, you know, go home since we're having them later?
Yeah, May would generally be like, I guess, basically be like, if you're going to do the whole, oh, don't look at me, I'm just here as an assistant, then like, you know, keeping an ear out, maybe like taking advantage of quote unquote being looked over, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
You know, no one pays attention to the servants sort of deal, which is obviously she's not a servant. But besides that, May's just like, go trip, having fun together in chat.
Yeah.
Oh, the Fish is here too, I guess.
Also here, you know, girls trip.
Oh, before I forget, doesn't have to be a thing, but May will also briefly call Senator to be like, I'm alive, I arrived. I will be going across the border. Are they going across the border for this meeting, or is this meeting in town?
Yes. No, the meeting is happening across the border.
Yeah.
You know, Hong Kong is, despite the fact that it is a fairly big city in the scale of cities, it is like an hour's drive from Guangzhou. And
and then she says that.
Yeah, that's not including, you know, any kind of border crossing time, which China is not currently operating as if it is fully in a state of war. It's also not operating as if it's in a state of peace. So you don't expect the border crossing is going to be easy peasy. But it might take a while, and so it's clear that that's kind of factored into the scheduling of this by Temerity, who probably crosses the border, decently frequently.
Mm.
And
May would also want Cal to look through the files with her. And we'll send the same to Fish once they're done with the lot.
That's what I was going to ask, if you were going to
Yeah.
have Cal's assistance with going through these files.
Yeah,
Okay.
for sure.
Then I will say, surface level details are very easy to get, but if you want something a little bit deeper, I would like everyone to give me an investigation roll. Fish for the catalog. May and Cal's will essentially be advantage between the two of you.
Yeah, the dice were not impressed. The dice are not impressed.
Oh.
That was a nat 1, so that goes. Give me a second.
You're like, we give and we take away.
Yeah, I'm going to use Flash of Genius as well, which brings it up to a 13.
Okay. You're ours, Ellie. Get rid of us if you want, but you'll never be free.
I need to burn them in a fucking hot paper. God.
And you take them out of the fire and they're cool.
I'm gonna get back on myself. Yeah, anyway, hopefully that is somewhat good.
Yeah, no, 13's decent. And for Mooney?
19. Cal goes, I got you, babe.
Oh, thank God.
And what was it for Fish?
10.
Yeah, all right. We'll start with Fish. Going through the catalog, there is a lot of stuff that you are like, yeah, that looks old and Chinese. And as you flip through, this catalog is annotated. Temerity clearly took notes on it, and so as you're flipping through, the catalog item that May notice and the one you're after is marked as potentially magical ? May's like definitely 100%, but that's not necessarily relevant to the mission enough to be widely disclosed. There are a couple of other entries in the auction that are listed as potentially magical, and there are some notes Temerity has written to himself on kind of like a paper stuck between the pages of like local experts to like test anything that's leaving the auction in case they need to like intercept it or keep something from leaving if it is actually dangerous, and how well they can be trusted. Now it seems like, with May being here, they may be able to rely on using May instead. The vast majority of the catalog, however, is seemingly just a wide array of Chinese antiquities. Most of them are fairly small and transportable, and all of them are in lots. There's no like individual items. It's like, here's a lot of 3 vases from the Ming period. Here's a lot of 10 statuaries and a reliquary from the Song Dynasty. They're all like in combination. You can't bid on things individually, and that also, I think you realize, makes it a little hard to kind of like figure out the good stuff versus the bad stuff, because instead of being like, here is a photo of this awesome item and a really dedicated write-up of it, it's like, here's a photo of a bunch of stuff and then some descriptions, and you don't know which one matches which item in the picture. It's that putting a group shot on Tinder kind of thing of being like, what's the best combination here of stuff? Is any of this good?
That is a shame, because Fish is specifically looking for something cool to buy.
Yeah. With a 10, I think you do see some things that are like, that like Kekino is looking at. It's like, that looks cool. That looks cool. And it's like a neat statue of like a soldier. There's an old sword that is in a little display case. Like things that you're like, it's cool, but it could be cooler.
Yes.
Nothing that like super grabs your attention for the most part. There's also with a 10 in the pages a list of potential bidders that he was clearly keeping track of. There's a number of uh, like people's names who you assume are like individual parties as well as governments. The Chinese government is the Chinese government in exile. The Taiwanese government now was seemingly trying to bid, and their name is now crossed off as if
Ah.
they are not allowed to come to this auction. But you can see that like the British government are involved, the German government are involved, a lot of Western countries are buying these things, and you do see a notation that the House of the Ram themselves are not just going to be kind of, one of the potential hosts of the auction. They are participating in it and wanting to buy some of these antiquities. And the note you're seeing is basically Temerity saying, you know, they're probably going to move it out of the country to keep it safe, but they don't want this to end up in some European museum somewhere. Um, and so that is maybe something you can tuck in the back of your mind as leverage for the upcoming meeting. For Cal and May, with the total of 19 with that search, you get the sense of the dynamics of the House of the Ram and a little bit more in depth about the exact political situation that's happening here. Um, every heavenly house is controlled by a matriarch who is essentially called Mother house name. So in this case, Mother Ram, who is the equivalent of the Grand Mage, the one who controls everything. And it's not stated explicitly in the information you're seeing, but with a 19, you can kind of read between the lines enough to know you get that position by being the most powerful, at least female mage within the main house, and there is a bit of a competition for it in a certain extent. So the matriarch is also very powerful in a way that a grand mage is. The equivalent of kind of the council of elders are the children of the matriarch, not blood related, although some of them are, but is kind of this extended series of advisors and administrators who kind of keep things running. Based on the info you're reading, that number is based on kind of need for the individual house. So some houses it's like you've got 4, and other houses you've got 35. There seems to be a decently large number of them in this house, but there's like 3 or 4 that are clearly the main advisors. Um, and yeah, with the 19, I think you also notice that it's like Chinese name, Chinese name, Chinese name, English name, Chinese name, German name. Wait, what was that? And it does seem like it, at least in this like higher level organization that you've got these files on, some of these people are not Chinese. And Guangzhou has a very like deep historical um, influence with other countries. They do still have a foreigners' quarter, and it was controlled by the British for a while. It has this history of being kind of like a gateway to the West, and if you were born and raised there, but you're white, you would be expected to join a house. And if you wanted to be involved in politics or running the house, or you were good at your job, you could get into a position of authority. So that at least gives you the sense of being like, okay, they're not like exclusionary or racist. Like we may genuinely be able to leverage like a connection to other countries about being like, hey, you senior in this organization are not yourself British, but your parents were, so maybe that's something we can do to influence things here. You get a little bit of the political situation where all of the sons and daughters, the equivalent of the Council of Elders, are like on the same side and working for the good of the house, but there are political factions that are kind of working against each other. Um, and You see a lot of speculation in the notations about specifically something really bothering them, something happening recently that caused them to like withdraw. Um, and it seems to have to do with a hospital run by the company you are here to investigate. It's nothing that is like explicit that Temerity knows. A lot of like rumors that he's gleaned from his contacts and stuff like that, but a lot of like, some speculative notes about like potentially investigate this hospital or something like that. Um, yeah, I think that's about what you get with a 19. You kind of get the sense of what levers you can pull on and what can't you in this upcoming negotiation. It does clearly seem like, number one, kind of respecting the power and autonomy and tradition of the house will get you a lot farther than being kind of rude and disruptive and foreign. And that this house is more reasonable and more close to Western governments than others might be, and therefore you may genuinely be able to make an argument on like, yeah, and this will improve future relationships, or other houses at this point in time may be more like, hey, we'll scratch your back, you scratch ours, but our priority is our new government that's taken over. Um, Also, just a general thing you glean from these records, the house system is really fucking old. Like the sanctuaries are this kind of very modern invention. Some of the oldest sanctuaries at this point are like at the 50 or 60-year mark, and it's kind of based on this earlier tradition that existed in England and France of kind of like a proto sanctuary that goes back a couple hundred years. The Heavenly House of the Ram itself is full on like 2,500 years old. It is.
Are there
There is a weight of history to these institutions that kind of gives you the sense, at least through the page, of being like, we were here long before sorcerers had any say in the magical community, and we'll be here long after they're gone.
I was going to ask Patrick, is there anything in Temerity's notes about how, specifically over there, the destruction of tradition, is that affecting them? Like, are they really grasping more tightly to their ways, or are they kind of really embracing like the no modernization now? Like, what's the
You see speculation about it
Okay.
rather than ever confirmed facts. It is very clear that Temerity is like, I've got some junior level members of the house willing to talk to me explicitly about it. I've
Okay.
got rumors by some other people, but not like, the matriarch has said to me what she intends. But you do, kind of reading between the lines and reading these notes with a 19, you do get a sense of like the importance of tradition to them, of being like,
Okay.
when you are from an institution that is ancient, kind of keeping things the same, honoring the past is fairly important. And when, especially because you had that marked up map of Guangzhou, you can see that like during the Revolutionary War and then after it, the communist forces like very purposely went through and like bulldozed all the shrines. They got rid of all the religious iconography. They got rid of most of the monuments that were not like in line with modern communist ideals. If they are, you know, surviving here in this time, you have to assume that the House of the Ram is at least willing to work with the communist government to a certain extent. If there's one like breaking point between them, it's that they are very much in favor of tradition, and the government is absolutely not.
And lastly, this is more probably a question for Temerity. What sort of customs specifically should we be observing upon arrival, and should we be bringing some sort of gift as a symbolic, like thank you for, etc.?
He basically relates to you some of the procedure, which is essentially you're going to go in and you're going to have a short like preliminary meeting with a senior member, and then depending on what the matriarch wants, you will have a full meeting with like the matriarch and whatever part of her council she wants to be there, or they'll just be like, I'm speaking for the matriarch in this moment. We've had our meeting, now go away. Meeting with the matriarch especially does usually require a gift. Temerity just like shows you in his storage room. He's just like prepped he just like prepped a couple of like generic gift baskets that are like nice enough to be a gift, but like not particularly nice and or individualized, so we can just grab them when needed to like smooth stuff out. Not even necessarily with the houses, like even locally. And he's like, yeah, feel free to take one of those. But May is also probably like, I could maybe make something better if I'm willing to spend some cash at the market.
I was literally about to say, May wants to get something kind of personal.
Yeah,
now that she's read their files.
It's not quite the level of like getting a pre-made gift basket of like soaps and bathing products at the grocery store, but it is also not much better than that.
Yeah, May is basically going to be like, well, I'm going to go down to the markets to look for something a bit more personal, to charm them. You're welcome to join me. I'm also probably going to get a bite to eat, but I might head off so I've got time to get back.
Right. Fish has asked Temerity if Kekino can just freely be a seal.
He looks at Kekino, he looks at you, and he's like, ooh, yeah. Oh, yes. So, the keeping of pets is a, what's the phrase? Is a class symbol of the bourgeoisie. So that is a potential problem, but there's a lot of animals locally. I think people might see a seal as weird. No offense. Can this thing understand me? No offense.
He can understand you. His name is Kekino.
Hi. Okay. Cool. Yeah, being a seal would be kind of weird, but not necessarily weirder than like a dog in a vest thing. So.
Denia, do you wanna be bougie?
Cal has this moment of like, do I pretend that's not my name? You know what? Fuck it. Fish is rude. Fuck it. Fish is rude. Maybe they just get names wrong. And she's like, I don't particularly think.
No, look, they would say Dennis.
Okay,
they'd be in the zone.
Like, I've locked in. I've got my new character.
Yeah.
She'd be like, I don't know if it's particularly a good idea to be parading around as a bourgeoisie Caucasian woman.
Tragically, I'm inclined to agree. We can't afford them to take offense at us.
Okay.
You used to just shove them in your sweater.
I'm not wearing a sweater. I'm wearing a nice suit.
I have not had sweater time in quite a while. Dad said I was getting a little big.
You are getting a little big, but it's not an insult. It's a compliment.
That's because, as you say, I am a growing boy.
You are, yeah, growing boy. Buddy, we might have to have you in your little invisibility bubble. Would you be okay with that?
Are you going to be doing anything cool without me?
Never. If the moment something cool is happening, you are coming straight back out.
Pinky promise? He gives you like a flipper because he doesn't have pinkies.
Yeah, full on. Like, yeah, buddy, you know it.
Even though she's not being addressed, Cal puts her hand over her heart.
Okay, I can be hidden then. That's all right.
Okay, bud. Good boy. You're taking it really seriously, and you will be vastly rewarded for your efforts.
By being an elder of this sanctuary, I understand.
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
what?
We're having a father-son moment here. Can you just fuck off?
Yeah.
I think at the
No,
Cal looks at
it's
this
like
guy.
it's like a yeah with no vowels. It's like
Yeah. I think Cal gained her first iota of respect for this man when she saw the bag under his eyes and seeing them just not buying the whole fish thing. She's putting this squarely on fish. She's like, obviously Kakado is charming. It's just this guy's not buying fish. It's just like respect. This is how I like it. Someone getting an automatic bad first impression of them. Instead of being charmed and shit.
That's how it's supposed to be. Whenever what's his name? I'm sorry, it's not sticking with me.
Temerity.
Okay. Temerity. Whenever he makes like okay, thank you. When he makes more of a sound of more of a sound than a word, Fish is like, fucking comprehend languages doesn't seem to be working today. He's speaking perfect English, of course, but like, you know.
Realistic to me. Oh, people I talked in England, I'm like, this isn't English. You seem to think it is, but it's not.
All right. Kakano shall be dismissed for the duration.
Shall be dismissed in the bubble. Very fortunately for him, he can still smell in the bubble, and you're going to the nice market where there is lots of good foods and stuff to smell. So he will be happy. Temerity just basically says, I've got work to do. Try to be back in 20 minutes or we might be late. Because the border takes either a very quick or an incredibly long amount of time, and there is no way to tell. But yeah, he just stays behind to do work. I think he probably can like write out a very quick list about like what traditional gifts are that he.
Yes, thank you. I was going to ask.
So yeah, you jots that out and hands it off to you, and is immediately distracted by paperwork and work as the phone starts ringing, like as soon as he's done with you, and he has to immediately jump back into managing this city on his own.
Boston.
Whatever they're paying this guy is not enough.
No, certainly not. As Fisher companies may, and they do like fully like tell her about this House of the Heavenly House of the Ram, like potential conflict of interest, if I'm interpreting what that was correctly.
Conflict of interest in what way?
In that they're hosting and bidding.
Yes.
They're kind of like, it's being hosted in our city, so it's being hosted with permission kind of thing, rather than being like, we're running it. It's more like hosting in kind of like the very traditional, like respectful nod to this is your territory sense. But yes, so it's not like a direct conflict of interest. From a Western perspective, it is a little iffy.
Yeah, but it's not
okay.
From an Eastern perspective, it's totally normal. And fine. Yeah.
Fish
Yeah.
is completely interpreted as this is
Yeah.
Yeah.
It- I also think if May relates the thing about like concerns about a local hospital that's under this medical group, if Fish is like already in conspiracy mode, being like, let's hide together.
yeah. That's just the kind of headspace of the time. And Jonas is behind it all. Anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. May takes it on board, appreciates them saying that. I think even her like dealings in like Sudan and Africa, where it's obviously not the same as that culture, but there is still that more like lenient sense of this is how you do it. She's maybe not as sus about it. Yeah, polite and friendly, but still a little bit reserved. And is also now in shopping mode.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just like kind of like, I'll keep an eye on it.
Yeah, roll for shopping.
Yeah, roll for shopping. What would be a shopping roll?
Can I say perception? Because it's a busy area and she's looking for stuff that
Yeah.
matches the list.
Yeah, it's decently
Nature.
crowded. It's decently crowded. You want to do a nature check?
No, that's just my suggestion.
That
Survival.
is a
Maybe.
dirty 22.
Survival to not get mugged or something.
Survival elbowing your way through the market.
With a 22, this place is busy. There are a lot of cars kind of swinging by just outside view. There's a lot of people yelling at each other, seemingly both in anger and in friendly conversations. That thing where you're talking and then everybody's being so fucking loud you have to talk louder, but of course you're contributing now to how fucking loud it is. With a dirty 22, you do have to deploy elbows a little bit. May is used to this from shopping in Cairo, shopping in a lot of of other things. You kind of know the culture here of being like, you have to haggle, but not too aggressively. You have to be like forceful and wanting to move where you want to move, but not be a jackass. I think that allows you with a 22 to kind of flow through this market decently well. You find some things with a 22 that would be good for a little gift. Some fine plum wine is a big one. But most of all, what you're seeing here is like food prices are decently expensive. Hong Kong is doing fine. China is not doing as well. It's still kind of dealing with a lot of the food issues of the Cultural Revolution.
Is there any lovely fresh fruit?
There is a lot of very nice fresh fruit. It's a little expensive for what May would normally pay, but with a 22 and May's experience, I think you can haggle to a decent price. There is lovely oranges and it's very crisp strawberries and a small container of just really nice fresh snap peas, and you just kind of like assemble kind of like a gift basket of mostly fruits and some other like little treat foods.
Beautiful.
And yeah.
Oh, do they have? Oh wait, no. What time of the year is it? It's November.
It's December.
It's December.
Oh, December. Yeah, sorry. The autumn festival would have already passed then. Can't think of any like special little treats. I was gonna say mooncakes, but that's not at the moment. It's a shame. Oh well. Treats, little generous treats it is.
You can get some like little sweets and stuff. That's a very that's a very traditional gift. Not necessarily mooncakes, but something. But I think the basket is mostly like really nice fruit that I think at least in May's estimation is going to be like, this is valuable here. We're going to cross the border, and it's going to be an even better gift.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah.
How much gold do I take off, Patrick?
For the conversion, I would say probably like 3 gold total.
No problem. Okay.
You know, it's a nice but not overwhelming gift. It's polite but does not like evoke a response in kind of thing. So it's expensive but not very expensive.
Yeah.
And yeah, you just kind of get a feel from the city. You know, Fish is probably looking for dirt between the cobblestones to be like, "Well, I mean, clearly comprehend languages is not working. I'm only getting some of this," and is trying things out. You know, chatting with people. Uh, this is a hectic, busy place, but it's I think it reminds you a little bit of like the energy of like the Pleasure District in Seoul, but the Pleasure District always had such an edge of danger to it. There was always so much of like, yeah, I'm gonna go gamble and have a nice meal and then try to avoid getting stabbed on my way home. This is like that level of like frantic energy of, but at the same time being like, these people have jobs and nobody's going to stab me and they're all gonna go home and probably close up at 8 p.m. or something. And with a dirty 22, I think you are also like looking around and like seeing, you know, a not overwhelming but like quite normal kind of police presence for local police. There doesn't seem to be like a lot of gangs keeping an eye on things. Some like pickpockets that are normal and expected, and you know, the others might get caught on it, may won't, because she's too used to it. But it just seems like normal and safe and less, you know, frenetic, but in a good way.
Cool.
As you gather up the gifts, anything else you want to get like while you're out and shopping and preparing?
Can
there
we look
any-
for like? Go ahead.
No, I was just going to ask what else there is besides fruit. So, yeah, whatever, go, Cal.
Cal would be looking for like nice but not obscenely expensive like silk hair scarves and anything that would be interesting to Jamal. The idea of like, I don't know, like nice readers, a good rock.
Yeah. Give me a perception check then from Cal.
Uh, 13.
With a 13, there is a couple of like what in the future will be like little tourist tchotchkes, little good luck statues and ribbons and wind chimes and things like that that are still, you know, still a little touristy, but not cheap mass-produced garbage like it will be in the future. And do you think that you know, Jamal might like a wind chime or something like that? That might be a good gift. And I think you also find a little statue with a 13. You find a little statue of what might be a monkey. Maybe it has like kind of monkey-ish proportions, holding a kind of polished stone.
And this appeals to Cal how?
I think you look at that and go, this is weird. Jamal likes weird, I guess. Sure.
Does it seem cursed?
Give me an Arcana check.
I was like,
Poor.
You know,
yeah.
look, do the Arcana, but Fish is like
If you're not getting it, I'm getting it.
no, following Cal around and just has Eldritch Sight passively on, looking at cool shit, if anything.
I like the idea of Cal like picking it up and be like, "Oh, it's cursed," and we'll give it to Jamal. And Fish's like, "It's cursed. I'll give it to Jamal."
Yeah. Yeah.
What do I have now? 18.
Okay. With an 18, you don't believe it's cursed. It is magic, which Fish can confirm to you. It seems like it's like not a projector necessarily, but like a small image amplifier of like you can see. Hey, once you're like really observing it, you can see that it is taking the image of the street of people walking past and shopping, and it is moving through the stone and like projecting that image in miniature on the wall behind you with like very crisp, really crisp, clear picture, more than you could normally get with just like a lens.
And I look at the booth, and the booth is named Mice Capture. A joke for only me.
Good, because I don't understand it. Oh, yeah, okay.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And now that you're looking at it more closely, this might be a statue of like Sun Wukong or something rather than just like a monkey. But yeah, you're like, this is neat and vaguely magical. I guess Jamal likes neat and vaguely magical things.
And meanwhile, Fish has had the Sun Wukong thought and is thinking, maybe I could meet that guy somewhere.
Yeah, he's probably around.
When if Fish is tailing her while she's looking at this, she would probably hold this up and being like, "I don't." So it's magic, but not cursed, right?
No, not cursed. Regrettably.
I'm sure you. Cal tucks some hair behind her ear and goes, "I'm sure you can find a cursed object somewhere, not in this market, somewhere in this on this trip, if that's your souvenir goal."
Why do you think I'm looking at the lots?
Just like shakes her head, but in a very more of an affection of like, "You're weird." Cal is also interested in curses, so she has no fucking leg to stand on here. I'm just realizing it's a thing. She'd be like, "Fish," and be like, "Okay, kettle."
Yeah. Now I'm taking us back in time to the airport when she goes and changes out of her burqa into her normie clothes. Fish is standing outside the bathroom, like towering over, and goes, "What the fuck is this?" And she's like, "What?" And it's like, "Never mind." Walks away.
Fish was like, "So we were in town together for an entire month, and you couldn't fucking do it. Yeah, we show up in a foreign country. Okay, all right, fine." Yeah. Well, Cal we'll purchase that. And then what did you say with in regards to like hair scarves or kind of stuff like that? Or like ribbons or something?
There is some nice decorative scarves and ribbons, including a couple of kind of like, they're about halfway between a scarf and like an actual hood or a little hat that you can wear to cover your hair. Seems to be a little more traditionally designed, and you see a couple of women wearing something similar in the area, but also an equal mix of scarves, so it's not like you're standing out in any way in that regard. But yeah, some things that are fairly nice and local if you want to purchase.
Yeah, Cal will pick something classy, something that she could imagine wearing at home, but fits in fairly well here, and it probably isn't going to be black.
Yeah, maybe. Might even be like a really dark brown, or even more daring, a dark purple. Do you get anything for Jamal?
Yeah, she'll get the projection thing. I'm intrigued by it, as long as it's not too expensive. I don't have a ton of gold.
Yeah, no, it's pretty cheap. Okay. We'll say the hair scarf and the monkey statue will be $1.50. And yeah, any other shopping you want to do?
Not for fish.
Okay.
However, while Cal is modeling, like, comparing like scarves against her hair, I suppose, um, like does this like that, like receiving a message and goes, Kekano says that looks cute. Kekano's not saying that.
Or rather, Kekino has said it to everything she's picked up, and this is the one Fish likes.
Yeah,
Yes,
Fish
this
is
is
exactly.
the
Yeah.
one.
transmitting the
Yes.
message.
Kekano's been watching the eyes and be like, Dad, you're gonna tell her she looks cute, right? Dad, Dad,
I don't
I'm
like.
dying.
I don't like this one. I don't think it compliments her eyes. This one I do like. I'll tell her. Thank you.
Yes.
Cal gives a little smile at that and then pushes his hair scarf. Chewing.
Chewing. Excellent. You head back to your little home away from home for the time being, and find Temerity, with his jacket back on, keys, ready to go, kind of itching to go as soon as you get back in the door. Maybe borrow a basket from him or something. Make things uh, make things nice to present. And he says, uh, "Just go off the phone." And a bit lucky. The British government delegation. They've been. He looks so confused. British government delegation. The lead negotiator is actually a sorcerer we're familiar with, so we got her to agree to not bid on this item, so that we can take it for give it to the Canadians, and as well as letting us examine anything else that she gets for the home country, and make sure it's non-magical or it's displayed. Yeah, and Miss Colure is looks to be heading up the British acquisition thing. Yeah, nice gal, I guess. It came in a couple days ago. Um, and yeah, CC Cole, or by her sorceress name, Colure, seems to be actually potentially some of your competition for bidding on these items, although has promised to not bid on the specific one that you want. But we'll probably run into each other. And I think just because May had that role when interacting with her last time about being like, what's her deal? And ended up getting that information about being like, she's not really cared about. She does a lot of dangerous missions. I think May probably immediately thinks of like, you sent her in to negotiate with communist China to get stuff?
That's sus.
They could just kill her. Why?
May says to him, "Oh, I've run into her before. What do you make of her?"
Not a great sorcerer, as far as I can tell. But not as powerful or anything. But I don't know. Seems nice, I guess. Enthusiastic, maybe. Yeah, she seemed really excited. Kept talking about, oh, it's a new place and it's so exciting, and I was like, hey, it's not the safest around here. I warned her about the militias and stuff, and it seemed to take it to heart. But yeah, it was just kind of like a little kid in a candy shop, I guess.
Maybe
I don't like to like to case these portions on our fellows, but I think probably there's a lot of our countrymen that are not super comfortable coming to China right now, and maybe she's kind of lamb for the slaughter if something bad happens.
Hmm. Well, don't worry, I've not seen any aspersions, but noted.
Fish like taps May. There's do you think we need to I mean, like, it doesn't sound like she's anything scary, but do you think we need to be like, keeping an eye on her?
At the tail end of this, Cal asks, "Do we like her?" To May.
Yeah.
Also, who is this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
May says she's given me no reason to suspect her of anything untoward, but something's just off about her whole deal. Yes, let's keep an eye on her. She's perfectly nice. We're welcome to have a chat with her. Maybe don't tell her the specifics of why we're here, is my advice.
Keep her distracted. Got it.
No.
I did not say sleep with her. That
I
is not
didn't
something
say
I
that
said.
I was going to. I
You
said
didn't
keep
need
her
to.
distracted.
May looks at Cal.
Yeah, Cal behind her hand. Is that going to be a concern? To May,
I
which
hope
in
not.
her mind is she's
I
like,
hope not.
what she's trying to convey, like, is she like super attractive or charming or at all appealing?
No.
I guess.
Yeah, and I was like, I don't think so. But the fewer distractions, the better.
I mean, I haven't noticed them have very many distractions either. Like, not even in the town that my temple is in. It's making me a little
You
more
have no
concerning.
faith
They-
in me.
Really
What
sono
face?
voice to Cal is like, it would be our luck that they choose to have the rebound here and now of all places.
No, that's exactly what
An
I'm concerned about. It
exotic
has.
location.
It's going to spring up at some point. It hasn't sprung, and that's starting to make me concerned.
Hmm.
Still having this
Unfortunately, we're
conversation
off
like
limits.
Fish is not in the room.
Yeah, right in front of Fish, and they're just standing there, like, kind of glaring at them both, like, I was meaning, like, to fucking watch her at the auction, but okay.
Ellie, what was the last thing you said?
May was going to be like, well, it's a good thing neither of us are particularly vulnerable to their charms.
Yeah.
You tell yourself that, May.
Fish is like, I'm gonna do a good thing, and then May and Cal just ruthlessly tear into them right to their face.
That's the dynamic. Fish is like, now I'm gonna fuck her out of spite.
Yeah.
Assholes.
Yeah, no, that's
Learn something
what
useful for us
definitely comes
about
up. Jonas is on the other side of the world. It's like, fucking out of spite. Why has that come into my head right now? It's like,
Jonas gets up like, is it happening? Is Cowfish happening? No. Okay. Alright.
Jonas is
I can
it's like cut to somewhere in the world, a dark room, Jonas at a long table with a bunch of other shadowy figures. That's how we will complete our plan. Hold on a moment. Hold on 1 second. I just need to. Oh my god. Oh my god. No! No, the other one! The one right in front of you! God damn it. Anyway, what were we saying?
yeah.
What?
Yeah, so they have this whisper conversation. Fish is like, fuck both of you guys. And she goes like,
Yeah. Just like, I'm gonna buy something really expensive and bill it to the British sanctuary.
Cal points at May, but he's like, well, I don't think they can do any distractions while Kekano is in the bubble. So at least we have that as a warning sign.
Yeah, May laughs.
Kekano is talking to Fish like, yeah, I will keep an eye on things. Nothing bad can happen. Nobody else hears.
Yeah, and fistfully thinking at him like, oh, do not, I'll just dismiss you. It'll be fine. You won't have to say anything.
We'll fuck this woman out of spite. I don't even care how hot she is now.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the person
sight
Fish has never
unseen.
seen.
Oh, well, I mean, like, it followed, a precedent has been set.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Yeah. People have expectations that Fish now has to meet. Yeah, I think unless there's anything else to do, it's time to prep to cross the border.
Yeah.
Okay. Then yeah, we'll just abstract that really fast as you hop in the car and cut through the traffic in Hong Kong, headed north towards the border. Traffic starts falling away, and as you get there, there's a little bit of a line of other cars coming across, and then you are stopped. You are fully taken out of the car. All of your belongings are searched in a not particularly gentle way. You know, kind of good thing you left all of your most of your stuff back at the rooms, because everything else would be disorganized and fucked up now. May is probably sticking close enough to Temerity to kind of like see the interactions with the border guards. So I think either May or Temerity can give a persuasion check with advantage.
Do you not want the +4?
How persuasive is Temerity?
You don't really know, but he is he is, you know, very familiar with this area and has been running things. So
he would have a lower DC, right? A much lower DC.
Yeah, it might be higher than you. I think May would kind of be like, I could step in and do this. I'm not sure I want to.
May's gonna watch and listen and learn.
Okay.
We get turned away. Campaign's done, guys. We're going home. Can't go in.
You're not getting turned away because that was a nat 20.
Well done.
As you approach the border, Temerity like becomes a different person. You watch him like stand up straighter. He's smiling so much more. He's speaking exclusively in Cantonese, and it's not translating for you at all. Fish is getting it because of the comprehend languages, but it's like not speaking English where the Chinese soldiers can hear. As your stuff gets searched through, there is a captain of the border guard here who comes up and speaks to Temerity. They speak very quietly. May doesn't understand exactly what they're saying, but you kind of get the like subservient body language and kind of like calming words and tone. And you see as he pulls out the gift basket you very carefully put together, and he pulls a little bit of the wrapping to the side, and you see like a thick stack of yuan that the officer takes out, puts away in his pocket, and then he takes one of the strawberries and he eats it, and then just that one, and sends you on your way. He turns and says something to all of you. Only Fish understands that it's essentially, watch yourself. We're keeping an eye on you. You know, very aggressive, you know, wanting to stand up to the foreigners, but also somebody did genuinely pay the right bribe and say the right things. So you still need to seem like you're a hard ass, even though you're letting them go. And yeah, with that, you are through the border. driving north.
Hold
Immediately.
on. Fish takes the ladies into a huddle, like as if they're going to like impart really important information. It's like, I'm gonna fuck that guy, as in temerity.
Counter size and goes, after the mission, please.
After the mission. After the mission. On the way out.
And please, yeah, please don't give him any more stress about it. I don't know how he's walking at the moment.
Carol's like, stay a day late once, and we'll fly out before. Actually, that would be ideal. We'll be gone, and then you can do whatever you want.
Oh yeah, and leave you in town for one day so you can put up a charm that keeps me out.
Never again. Never again will you be allowed to be in your town where I am not also there. Just in case.
Young gives the like, what do you need? Like extreme forehead crinkle and being like, are you following me back there again?
I got shit to wrap up. Everyone likes me there.
I will not bar you from town. You can do whatever you need to here, and you will still
May, do
have
you
the
hear the
same
way
welcome.
May, do you hear the way that she's saying that, like implying that she wasn't gonna let me if she hadn't said?
I wasn't.
No collision is that if she doesn't let you into town, I don't think I can go into town either.
Fish does not share this.
I've been waiting for the apples in Mrs. Granger's backyard to be ripe for this whole month. And if I'm not going to eat some of those apples off the tree, I'm going to be upset.
Dad, you're not telling her. Dad, I can see you're not telling her.
Dad, I can tell you're not talking to her. The apples, Dad.
We'll go to New York, see the fireworks. They say this out loud. All right, and now we continue. Proceed.
As you drive across the border, you're instantly in Shenzhen. Right now, it honestly just seems like the border is just like a wall separating a metropolitan area. Like, there's not a lot of... if the wall wasn't here, there would just be straight overlap between these cities and no point at which one started and the other began. But eventually you're moving through the countryside as you approach Guangzhou. And eventually arrive at your destination. As you're pulling up, you can see... first of all, there is a chauffeur, a valet rather, to take your car and park it somewhere, because there's a little kind of turnaround right here. And as you all step out and the car is parked from you, you are looking at a kind of enclosed compound that May might recognize from books. I don't think anybody else has seen. There were some similar places in Korea on a much smaller scale that you noticed, but it's essentially like a walled house or series of houses, all forming kind of like a family compound. And since May looked at the map, she can like look around and see that there are, this is the main gate, but there's a couple of side gates, and there's pathways that cross the road to some of the surrounding area. And this does feel like almost a village unto itself of just this family. Of like, this is not even in the city of Guangzhou right now. This is the city of the House of the Ram. until you leave, there's, there was a little bit of borderland, but I think you probably get the sense that they can kind of do whatever they want to here, because nobody can hear you scream that's not one of theirs. as you are welcomed in from your meeting, um, Temerity kind of speaks to May quietly and is like, "It's just I'm here to translate or kind of smooth things over. This is your argument. Just I can't be, you know, I can't be taking the lead on this, so you gotta."
Quite appreciated.
And
And the moment the meeting begins, May is going to cast comprehend languages, just as an FYI.
yeah, absolutely. He is probably like puts himself in the position of number 2 and is like carrying the gift basket and like standing a little bit behind May, so May is taking the lead.
I want to characterize Mr. Perch at this time, which is Fish like doing the bodyguard, like very
Trying to do
serious.
sinner.
Yeah, I'm trying to do a bit of
Alright.
a sinner. Yeah,
Trying to do a bit of a sinner, okay.
May's like, what's wrong with your face?
it's serious.
Why did your nose suddenly look broken?
I've never seen you walk
Are
so
you-
straight up
I've
and down.
never seen you look so attractive before.
I
What's
was- yeah.
happening?
Like, are you more attracted to me right now?
And Cal's like, "Oh, you ruined it."
I'm like,
Kel is like noticing a repulsion coming in, and she's like, and it's the confusion of being like, wait, this repulsion wasn't here already?
yeah, it's a different kind. So anyway, I'd like to perhaps do a role, like, I don't know, performance. I know is like singing and stuff. They'll break out in song if they have to, but just
Performance is also, acting as a role. If you are trying to be like Sinner, that is absolutely performance.
I'd like to make a performance role just so, listen, the plan is not for Mr. Perch to interact with anyone right now. It's
Anyone
just
ever.
to
Yep.
establish this character.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, go for it. Give me a
Okay.
performance roll.
While they're doing that, May's going to cast Fortunate Soul as well.
21.
Okay.
Ooh!
21, you kind of like, you straighten your back, you lock your knees, and you're like, God, that kind of hurts. Okay, let's try this another way. And kind of like settle into the posture of Sinner, and you're like, what does Sinner do when he's around? He looks around a lot. He looks around and he pays attention. Not a lot of interesting things happening. God, does he just like not get bored? No, focus. And you're just kind of like you feel as like the walk from the gate to the front door. You kind of settle into this bodyguard role. You're walking like the appropriate amount of steps behind May, but also out to the side to kind of like guard that flank. Keeping an eye on the windows and doors. You can see some people are watching you all approach. And you try to do threat assessments like Sinner would do, but you can't actually see them. So you just
You
say
give them an ocular pat down.
yeah, you just say threat assessment really
Yeah,
really
the
loud
ocular
in your
pat
head.
And they can't help but fishify it and just go like, all right, out of 5 stars, you're a 3.5 of threat.
And Cal is still being the subservient assistant, right?
Just looking cute,
Just looking cute.
small and cute, short heels.
Do you want to
little
give me a
can
performance
heels.
check as well?
Sure. I mean, she's not doing very much.
Yeah, but subservient, that's, Cal has grown beyond that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's a reach.
that is kind of a reach now.
God, don't even know the last time I rolled a performance roll. 19.
Well done. What's your modifier on that?
2.
Well done.
Well
Thank
done.
you.
I think Cal probably struggles at first to like get into the act of being subservient without like regressing to the old temple days.
And she's
I think-
definitely not trying to do that. Like she is
Yeah.
definitely there's a performing of femininity which is very Elise.
Yes.
Of like the small and cute and slight and very
Mhm.
femme is like a way of being like, just ignore me. I'm
Yeah.
definitely not doing anything. That she's definitely like learned from Elise.
I think you try to like retreat into yourself a little bit and get a little too in the headspace of being the little temple necromancer, and then you're like, no, I'm not that person anymore. Focus on Elise, and just kind of, there's a little more sway in your hips as you're going forward. You keep your head bowed and yourself kind of like small, and you're sticking close to May in a way where you can rush forward and help her without like drawing attention to yourself until then. And as you all pass in to the compound, you can see it's kind of busy here. It's quieter. It's not operating at nearly as frenetic a pace as the market was, but it still seems busy. Like people are coming and going, people are doing stuff. This feels like a market or an organization, or what it is, which is a miniature government. And as you approach, and the valet slides open the door and bows you inside. There's a little reception area with a a very distinguished looking older Chinese man wearing a Western suit, who bows and says, "Ni hao, welcome," as you step in, and gestures for you to kneel down at kind of this negotiating table. It is really only big enough for like just May and this guy to meet, but there are cushions for you to, sit or kneel nearby and be able to like help May. Yeah, Teddy really ran in and ran out. He didn't like it. You commented on his bath. It was like, I need to be with someone who doesn't recognize my haircut.
He's going to sit in the sun.
Oh, yeah. As you accept the invitation and kneel down at this small table, and Temerity sets the basket down and very gently pushes it towards the gentleman. You cast comprehend languages. Yeah.
Yep. And May says, May introduces herself, Claire Dennis, and Fish, and introduces Claire as her assistant and Fish as
Mr. Perch.
kind of. Mr. Perch. Mr. Perch
Thank you.
as her colleague, I guess, but in a way that's like, don't worry about that. It's all
Yes.
love.
Yeah.
Ignore this person of indeterminate position.
Yeah. And then says, we humbly offer a gift of gratitude for your assistance rendered. Something like that.
Yeah. And you express that in English, right? Because you can understand
Yeah.
Cantonese. You can
Yes.
speak
No,
it.
I'm
Yes.
very much English.
You get the sense that the guy you're speaking to, although he only yes.
I do want to say real quick, Ellie did go out of her way to say that she was practicing Chinese during downtime. I think she at
It didn't
least
go well.
Yes.
I was gonna say, at least you introduce yourself
I
and say
personally
hello.
can. I
Yeah.
personally.
Yeah, you gotta use the Ellie stats. Let's roll the Ellie dice instead of the.
No, I think May is fluent enough in Mandarin.
Well, she can, yeah.
Even at the badness of those rolls of being like, hello, goodbye, thank you, you're welcome, my name.
Hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
I think she probably has to dip into English for even like most of the introductions, but she can say a couple of things.
Hmm.
Yeah, you're forgetting that she rolled real bad. Um,
She did roll real bad.
uh, you with just your passive insight, you get the sense that the guy you're talking to probably understands and speaks English fairly well, but is exclusively responding to you in
The
Cantonese.
ceremony, baby.
Yeah,
Tradition.
and Temerity is just kind of like kneeling on a cushion next to you, like very quietly translating for both parties.
Hmm.
When you cast comprehend languages, you hear the sound of people moving and then nothing. And with your just passive perception, you do think there might be like other watchers like hidden in the walls or something, like maybe security, that were kind of reacting to you using a spell. No kind of like no kind of like fear or anything from this guy's perspective, but definitely like ready to counter somebody coming to argue in bad faith or something like that. And
Okay.
as you
Does
are,
he react?
he does not. He's just he like it happens. He clearly noticed it happened, but like the guards or whoever it is are like preparing something and then stop rather than him like actually doing anything.
Okay. If he notices, then like, because May doesn't want to think that that
Hmm.
May doesn't want them to think that she's being deliberately subterfuge. She says, "Apologies, in English. I just for the sake of openness, I did cast a translation spell for myself. Though I very much trust and appreciate my colleagues' services, I do enjoy the immediacy of being able to converse, somewhat together."
Um, he gives you a small smile and bows his head as the translation is provided for him, and does seem to genuinely kind of appreciate it. And Temerity is now like not working to translate him; is just working to translate you.
Mm.
There's a little bit of a back and forth with the gift of being like, you know, we humbly gift this to the house and the
Oh, but
matriarch.
you mustn't. Oh, but you must.
No, you are our guests here. You can't provide us gifts. You know, just kind of like pushing it back and forth over the table a couple of times until it is finally accepted, kind of like set on his side of the floor. But
Ekano and Fish's head. I'll take it.
I'll take it. Why does nobody want the nice fruit? It looks tasty. I will eat it. I will eat it.
um, but the person sitting across from you is introduced as uh, uh, um, Jinyi Yong, which is essentially like first name, last name is Ram, which is very much like if you just belong to the house, you can keep your normal name. It would be weird if everybody had the same name. This is clearly a son of the matriarch, a very senior advisor, and that does mean you have to take the last name in that way, or at least use it publicly. Maybe your friends and family will use your old name. But yes, this is Mr. Young, which will get confusing since there are multiple Mr. Youngs. So
Yeah.
it probably makes more sense, even though not grammatically correct, to call him Mr. Ji Jin Yi. He welcomes you to this place, and it speaks a little bit like friendly and politely about your flight and your travels, what has brought you here, and then kind of gets down to brass tacks and says, My mother understands that you are interested in bidding for our cultural artifacts.
Yeah, May nods and says, I certainly am. With such a wealth of history and culture, how could I not be?
They are very impressive. Something perhaps not valued by all. But we've been informed that there is something of particular interest to you within these specimens.
When he says this, does he look kind of... what's the vibe May's getting here? Should I roll insight?
Yeah, give me an insight check. I think your
Yeah.
passive insight is definitely enough to get like a base layer, but I think there's probably deeper layers here.
Not great. Yeah, that's a 7.
Okay, then yeah, nothing but what the passive insight gets you.
Hmm.
Essentially, this is kind of like, this is very like, you know, on the surface it's friendly, but this is very like business meeting. He's not giving you a lot emotionally. He's kind of like fishing for information. And I think Jesus. So I think that you get the sense of being like, you know, honesty is maybe better than not in this situation if you want to keep these people on your side. But especially because you don't know how much he or the house knows about this. You know, if you're like, oh yeah, it's nothing important, and they're like, I know it's important. You're a liar, and we're not going to work with you. You know, obviously that's
Yeah.
a very easy trap to spring. So I do think you get the sense that he's kind of like not baiting you necessarily, but kind of like
Testing.
looking for more information and see how like honest and straightforward you're willing to be.
Okay. Maya says, I certainly am. I suppose, I certainly am. I gather you're referring to lot number XYZ. Yes, it pertains to a recent case that I undertook for the Canadian Sanctuary regarding old technology and old magical items. And I was quite astonished to see that there was one of its ilk in your catalogue.
Old magical items. There are many such in this land. I believe there are others in the catalog as well. Old magical items.
Well, there's old and then there's ancient.
And what is it do you think this item does? We've examined it ourselves and not seen anything awry.
Well, to be perfectly frank, I don't really know what it does with any certainty, but as someone who has a long-standing interest in ancient history, and she means like capital A, ancient history, it's very rare to come across. I've not had the opportunity to examine such items from, the Chinese regions. I'm very curious just to see what it might be.
Of course. And you would take this out of our country to Canada, is it?
Sorry, what was the end of that, Patrick?
You'd take this out of our country to Canada.
Yeah. Which is ostensibly what May is being told, right? Like, this is as far as she knows, yeah. And they would have been informed that that's not him, that's just him confirming stuff, right?
I think it's being like, you get like a little edge of like, you're taking this away from us. You're removing it from the country, of being like a little bit of a challenge of like, yeah, you like our history and our artifacts and you're stealing them.
Okay, in which case, Maeve very politely smiles and says, I certainly intend to pay what it's worth. And of course, if there's anything worth sharing, I see no harm in sharing it with you.
Well, sharing among friends is, of course, a valuable virtue. My understanding, our understanding, the family's understanding, is that the auction is closed to new bidders. Of course, we value cooperation with our allies in Hong Kong. He gives like a little nod to Temerity that's like clearly like respectful, but like almost respected enemies, but not quite. And we are bidding on these items as well. Why should we allow more competitors into this auction?
How much money was made given for this? Just enough to feasibly buy this one very expensive item?
It's the kind of thing where it's like you got like an absolute upper limit, but most of what you got was like, here's a line of credit for this amount. If you have to go over this amount, call us and maybe we can make it work. Like there is kind of a little bit of a sliding scale. The amount you got as like your basic amount, I'd say give me a history check just to see like antiquities auctions in general.
Does this include May's little anything pertaining to past and current cases she gets advantage on?
I'd say yes. I think yes. I think that makes sense.
Hell yeah. Not bad. That's better. Okay, that's a dirty 20.
Okay. With a dirty 20, I think you are like 22. Oh, with a dirty 22, I think you're like people are more involved, like more enthusiastic about this auction than like a lot I've had in the past. So we'll say like take the numbers I'm thinking of and add like 10 to 20% to account for that. You're like my like basic budget I was giving. If this lot sells for cheap, I can do this lot and like maybe 2 other like cheap lots. If this lot gets expensive, I will probably need to call in for more cash and still use all of my money on this. So it's the kind of thing of like, if genuinely nobody cares about this thing, it is feasible you could bid on other items. If people do care about this thing, that's all you can get. But you definitely didn't get enough to like actually be a competitor like for the auction as a whole versus like this specific lot. There's a little bit of flexibility here. You know, you are you can bid on what you want, and there is this kind of like, you know, somewhat spoken thing of being like, if this thing is here, what else is here? If you see something else that's like dangerous magical item, maybe you try to get that as well. But like, I don't think you have the funding to like actually compete for most of the antiquities.
Okay, so why should they allow more?
To me, that's like, swear you're not gonna bid on anything else.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, do an oath, like, I will not
that's
bid
what
on
I was
anything
thinking.
else.
Yeah, but then the question would be like, okay, well, why should we let you in just so you can maybe bid on this one thing?
Sometimes it's like, I mean, I'm arguing back, because if I lose, who the fuck cares? I said I'm bidding on one thing, and if I lose, oh well.
Yeah. May says, I completely understand your concern. My response would only be that I am only interested in this one item. So if I'm beaten out, then I won't be in competition. But also that the appearance of competition will only drive prices up, which in turn, I'm sure you understand that the West in general, and this is said very clearly with an air of like, I think it's stupid and I hate it, tends to value that which is most sought after, and that can only bring you good on a global stage.
Perhaps in the future, but for the now, we want to protect these antiquities. Money is not going to us. It is, of course, supporting our wonderful revolutionary government.
Can I roll insight for what he...
Yeah.
I want to see what he's feeling about that. Fuck me!
No,
Oh,
no,
I'm wondering if this is-
let me argue for advantage because Fish is being super perceptive right now.
Like
Fish
connecting.
Fish also does have comprehend languages active, so you can follow this conversation in the same way May does. I think if you can figure out a way to like cue May into information you find out, then you can give the help action. Otherwise, no.
May has magical telephony still. Like,
Would
I imagine
May
this
have
should be.
activated it so that others could chime in?
Well, here's the thing. Fish does that knock knock, but every time it's a joke, so May might just be like, fuck that shit.
Yeah.
Hang on.
And if you did mount,
No, it doesn't have to be open. Oh, maybe it has to respond telepathically. But like,
you have to start it, I believe.
yeah.
And then it's the question of being like, it makes sense for like a normal group of people to be like, hey, you know, I may need to communicate with you psychically. We'll just kind of like keep this open in the background. But you know, the only other person who's following this is Fish, which means that probably if you've opened this in the path, you know, Fish is like, life is like a hurricane here in Darkburg, and you're like, shut the fuck up, and then you block them out, and they're like, wait, no, I had something else important to say.
Yeah. Like, they could just knock and just be like, hey, I'm also listening to the conversation. Let
or
me
maybe
in.
or maybe like clear your throat or something, you know, some like pre-established signal.
Yeah, can we get away with that, please?
I'm very happy.
I said please.
I think, yeah, if you're willing to do something that like the others will notice, then yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, will
it's
they
them,
notice
like,
this?
And like they're trying to do a clearing of the throat the way that they've observed Jacinta doing it, like a.
Yeah, you go for like a classic sinner, like, and instead it turns into like a old dad.
Yeah.
So I don't know, they do that. May automatically turns with the air of like, are you fucking kidding me? You're choosing this moment, pulling your pipes, and then maybe sees them like a sad.
And like people are just like looking at you doing this, including any unseen watchers watching this.
Yeah. Listen, worst come to worst, it's just Mr. Perch who's like, yeah, right, the revolutionary government.
Yeah,
Yes?
if you're willing to do that, then yeah, roll with advantage.
I said
I have
yes.
an idea for what she'll say. Oh, that's so much better. That's a dirty 20. And I'm going to add Flashy Junior, so dirty 23. I want all the goods.
And I accept whatever consequences may come of the loud clearing of the throat.
That's what I've got an idea for what May's going to say. But I get the
There's
goods.
definitely a like this happens, and Jinyi turns to like look at you as you're making all this noise and like disturbing things, and then you have this conversation, and May kind of like turns back to the conversation, and Jinyi is still just looking at you, and just like turns back belatedly as May starts talking again. And I'm just like, what? Why? What? Why?
Yeah. May's like, please forgive my colleague. They have allergies which seem to pop up at the most inappropriate time.
With a 23 insight check, and also the fact that he rolled not great on deception, he got, I believe, his modifier a 9. You get the you kind of get the whole story. First of all, he thinks Fish is rude and weird. is annoyed by this.
Cal likes this guy.
Second of all, there's 2 layers to this. One, you do get the sense that he genuinely, both personally and like them as an organization, does not like the revolutionary government. They're willing to put up with it because it's what's happening in their country, and they don't have a lot of say in that. But you get the sense that kind of like the House of the Ram, at least based on this guy's perception, may have actually been like against the revolution originally and just kind of like fell in line rather than opposing it to the end, which would mean that they are less ideologically aligned, but also that they're kind of less popular with the party. So it's not like this direct competition at odds with the Chinese government thing, but definitely a sense of like, we don't like them and there's things they've been doing that we don't agree with. The second layer of it is like baiting you a little bit into like saying something bad about the government to see if you'll do it. And you get the sense that this is a test, and with a 23, the correct answer is to not say anything negative about the
Okay.
government.
That's all good. In that case, May says, and of course I completely understand, at the moment the focus is on helping the revolution to its ultimate goals. And of course I admire your dedication to it. Thanks, but back at you. And then May says, but I do believe in building bridges ahead of time, otherwise how can you use them when they're required? And I also thought that perhaps I could assist the House of Ram in an issue that seems to be drawing their valued attention.
With the like after effects of that 23 insight check, you can see the moment of him like flicking his eyes to Temerity and then focusing back on you about being like, that's not information you're supposed to know. Where could that have come from? Oh, he's been snooping again. or like oh. It's definitely one of those things about like, we will have a wise test. Information you're not supposed to know. What? No, I'm supposed to be in control here.
I love that.
With that, he says, what kind of help do you believe that we would need? But he kind of like sits back on his heels to like getting even like a little bit more distance from you, about being like a little guardedness in body language.
Okay. What help would they need? May says, perhaps not necessarily the help of someone with greater skill. I'm sure the House of the Ram has many able sorcerers and workers of their own, but perhaps the help of someone who is, though respectful and admirable, admiring of the government's goals and wishes, is not as strictly bound to them and comes from a place of cooperation.
As you say that, with the end of that 23, you can see a little bit of like happiness on his face about being like, you passed the test, you answered the questions correctly. And there's a very small, polite knock on the door behind him that slides open, and you see someone lean in and whisper in his ear very quietly. And you recognize this guy you've been talking to is one of the senior advisors of the matriarch. The one who is whispering to him now is an even more senior advisor of like the closest to the matriarch, who's clearly been listening in. And as he retreats and closes the door again, he says, well, you are to be honored. It seems that the matriarch herself has a interest in your proposal. Come in, please. And stands up and opens the door and kind of gestures you all deeper into the house. And it looks like this was a test. This was being like, are you respectful enough? Are you like showing you respect our like talents and abilities and connections enough? Are you like not so stupid you're gonna badmouth the government to like effectively agents of the government? You know, like it's just like a series of tests that you passed.
Nice.
minus points for the clearing of the throat, but still passed.
Fish is Fish has helped May succeed so well. Fish's cachet with these people has dropped a little bit, but that's less important.
As they walk, May does nudge Fish and give them an appreciative look.
And
but also says, "Please don't do that."
Please don't do that again. Why don't we just keep magical telephony open?
Yeah. Yes. They don't smile because, you know what Cinna does. I'll tell you what Cinna does. Not smile. But they do go wink. You know.
May is looking at a parody of Sinner that is probably not particularly flattering in her estimation.
Cal thinks it's great, though, actually.
Cal's like, you should make him stupider.
You should make him try to read, because he can't, even though I know he can.
I was like, you're not tall enough to hit your head on the ceiling and go, ugh, like a big dope.
Hold on, and then they actively get up as tall as they can to him.
As you are ushered into the house, this is clearly the house, the big central house, the central way, and this is the main hallway that you were led down, and with a big double sliding doors at the end, opens into a very traditional looking, it's almost like a throne room in some ways, not ostentatious, but a pathway to a big open space with a chair on a dais that a woman is sitting in. And as you enter, she is a older woman, looks to be in mortal estimation, probably mid to late 60s, early 70s, not ancient by any means, but certainly older, and is wearing a very fine robe with a lot of drape and layers to it that kind of obscures her entirely from the neck down. You can't see her hands or feet or anything peeking out. As you enter, and she's sitting on this equivalent of a throne. It's a very old room. Make and feel the history in this room, the carvings, this is clearly a very old but well-maintained space. In addition to the matriarch is arrayed in front of you, 12 of the most senior sons and daughters of the matriarch, including your guide, your interviewer, who waves you forward to some Western style chairs. Well, they're mixed. They're Western style chairs, but Chinese decorations. Sitting in front of the matriarch, which puts you at a lower elevation than her, and also everybody else in the room who's standing, but is still less embarrassing than kneeling.
May bows before she sits down in matriarch's direction. May not be exactly the right thing, but hopes she gets the attempt behind it.
Mm-hmm. And the matriarch, this older woman, just gives you a very small nod in exchange. One thing that's very clear from the beginning is you can talk to the matriarch directly. The matriarch does not talk to you directly. It's I think with May's experience with magic telephony, you get the sense of being something else is going on. Every once in a while, somebody will kind of turn their head like they're listening to something. But every time the matriarch responds, one of the sons or daughters steps forwards and responds instead.
But it's still appropriate for me to address her, like you're speaking
would
to a
do
deaf person
her
through a
and-
translator. Yeah.
Be looking at her, yes.
Yeah.
She just does not speak to kind of like an outsider for herself, except in very like intentional situations. As you all come and settle in, does Sinner Perch sit, or does it like assume a bodyguard position behind the chair?
I was thinking still remain standing if that's not disgustingly rude.
It seems like the others are kind of like looking at you, but not like oh, this is bad, we need to throw them out. It's just kind of like interesting. Okay, moving on.
Yeah, really to just establish like I'm here to
Hmm?
be standing behind the chair.
You guys are standing. I'm also standing. Just
Yeah.
like standing assholes. A senior son steps forward, and you also get the sense that like for all the pageantry and like leading you here and this like intimidating room, you kind of get from like soft sounds as you were approaching and kind of like the way people are standing that like they were imminently like talking with each other, potentially even having an argument like right before you came close enough to be able to hear them. You know, that probably, especially with May's very good perception, that probably is like, you know, undercuts the theater of it a little bit. But a senior son steps forward and says, welcome on behalf of the Ram Mother. And you have impressed us. We will consider your application for helping us with our bids. But you spoke of a... and then is speaking Cantonese, but then switches to English for just this phrase, which is quid pro quo. And Cal with her Latin fluency is like, I know what that means. But a quid pro quo, so to speak. A offering of gifts and deals of service to our house, so that we may do the same to you in good faith.
May nods and says, it is our great honor that the House of the Ram has seen fit to entertain us, our notion specifically, and express interest in our deal. And yes, we certainly come with the intent to offer our services, as you said, in exchange. I quite imagine that though I might bring you many gifts, perhaps I could be more useful in more concrete ways.
Well, we understand giving of gifts, of course, but it is acts of service that bind people together. The basket is kind of like brought forward, and the matriarch looks at it, and then it is set like kind of at her feet, or at the end of her robes. And,
She's not a citrus fan. She's got Alfin.
And as this one son is being like, subtlety, debts, obligations, another one like fully steps forward and interrupts and says, we do have a situation that could use your assistance. There's like a little bit of a quiet argument about like, you stepped on my whole thing. It's like, we're gonna be here all day.
Yeah. The auction will have come and gone by the time you get around to explaining what we need.
There is a little bit of a quiet argument that happens in undertones. I do think it is too quiet for Temerity to hear, but because both Fish and May are also under the comprehend languages. I think if both of you give me a perception check to see if you can kind of overhear what people are whispering about.
That's a 17.
4.
Okay.
May and Fish like.
Yeah. May like leans forward a little bit, and Fish like fully like leans on the chair and is like almost crawling over to like listen. You don't get the whole thing, but you hear little whispers, and it's kind of like the sense you get is we don't want to ask them to take care of this. We've already asked the others.
Okay,
and
if May hears that, then May will. Sorry, Patrick, you go if you want to say. I was going to say if May hears that they kind of they want to save face, she will give them an out so that they can save face.
They were like, we've already asked the others, and they are working on it. Sister name you don't quite catch assures us progress is happening. And essentially the whisper back is they are House of the Ram. They are tied to us and under our protection. It is much better to have not us involved in this for reasons you well know. Like that's kind of the it's bits and pieces that you get, but that's kind of the tone of the argument of these two sides of being like, we have someone to handle it, and being like, being part of the house and means that they can't handle it. So no, we've got to be looking at other options.
Okay, in that case, May speaks up and says, if it's not too impertinent of me to say, though as I expressed to Shinyi, I'm very confident that the House Ram has many able-bodied sorcerers of great talent, but I thought perhaps it might be of mutual benefit if I were to have someone outside of the House of the Ram where to offer their services.
The first guy who was talking to you is like, well, I suppose that could be beneficial, and then the other one is like, yeah, that sounds
Thank
good.
God.
And then all of a sudden they all still. They all like still, like as if they heard something. And the first son turns back and comes to the matriarch and lifts up the basket to her, and
What a fucking strawberry.
as the matriarch goes to take a bite, you actually see her sleeves fall back slightly, and she does not have any hands. They end at the wrist. And the son plucks out a strawberry and like feeds it to her. As she eats it, nods in appreciation, and then the son comes back down a little more embarrassed and is like, the mother says that you see clearly, and that we would greatly appreciate the help of someone so noble outside of our house.
The matriarch honors me with such a high compliment. I have struggled for clarity my entire life.
She nods to you as well, kind of like shaking her robes to hide her lack of hands again. And she shoots a glance to the one who is kind of a more straight shooter son, and he turns and bows to her as if there was a conversation happening. And he steps forward and says, I can explain the situation we find ourselves in, and you may agree to work on our behalf in this matter, and we will gladly help and support you in this auction.
May bites back the ocean, say, well, I am gladly, so it's a great match.
again.
Trying not to make that joke.
Temerity was like, "Ha, yeah," and then moved on. And it's like this guy is gonna be like, "What?" And then they're just gonna like translate back and forth to like make the joke make sense, and it's just gonna totally fall flat. May's like, "I need to hold that in. I need to hold it in."
Can she like share it with Fish through magic telephony, and they'll be like, "I love it."
Fish just starts clapping for no reason for a joke nobody heard.
God.
Al is sitting there just going,
Anyway.
"Shoot, just shoot me. I don't care what's happening. Just kill me." Essentially he says, you know, we will work out the details with you privately, but if you so long as you promise to keep what we've discussed a secret, you can say you can agree after we tell you what's up. And
What's up?
yeah, what's
Mhm.
up? And yeah, that seems to be like, it seems like there are certainly like internal factions happening with the house, but that despite that, they want to show a unified face. And it seems at least the matriarch is like, let them solve the problem. I'm in charge. I think this is good. Let them solve the problem. And you are kind of dismissed to like a side room, a little parlor where you can discuss. Jinyi is kind of brought over to sit with you and give you the details. But yes, you bow out and leave. And I think as you are leaving, it's not quite like a leaving the Emperor's presence, walking backwards kind of thing, but it is definitely like a bow, take a couple steps back, you know, turn and leave. And Temerity is kind of like very quietly guiding you through as you leave. You see the matriarch kind of shake back her robes a little bit and see that she also has no feet, and that it looks like she is one of her sons is looking to lift her up and take her out of the room.
And I want to roll perception to see if May notices if there's scar tissues or if this is a congenital deformity of some kind.
Go for it.
When you described her entire body as being covered, I was like, quadriplegic. I should have said it. I should have said it out loud.
You have a lot of good ideas that you don't share at the time.
17.
With a 17, it looks scar tissue. It looks surgical. It looks like they were removed. Yes, they were amputated rather than congenital. And I think this brings to mind a story that you like had in the necromantic records of missions that Cal provided to you, that you kind of like was an irrelevant detail at the time, and now you're kind of wondering about, which is in the mission records that Cal had, there was a necromantic mission that specifically made note of the fact that the matriarch they were speaking to did not have any hands either. And I think that was like weird thing to include in your report. Okay, and now you're like, is that like
some
a
sort of
requirement?
tradition?
Yeah, that's weird.
Me, like, is it to make her also at the mercy of the people she's caring for, so she doesn't fuck them around, right? Like,
I think that's a good bet. I think that is a good explanation May can come to about being like, the matriarch is the head of the family, who controls
not the hands or
everything.
feet.
But there are people to work as her hands or feet. So she is the head of the family, and also the most powerful sorceress, the most powerful magic user. And you can still use magic without hands or feet.
Yeah.
It's way harder to use offensive, damaging magic without hands or feet. So it is kind of like this commitment to like a peaceful political process in a way of being like, I am the most powerful in one way, but also I need to rely on other people for like my personal care in a way. And I think, you know, uh, ritual mutilation is probably something May's like, not okay with that. That's awful, but I guess
I don't think
not for me.
she doesn't personally agree with it, but I think she would have seen that anyway in like Africa, right?
Yeah,
That, like that being uncommon.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And probably in worse contexts.
Yes. Yeah. But this is like weird. Like, I guess I appreciate the symbolism.
Cal is like, oh yeah, shit happens. What do you think they're doing with their hand bones and feet bones? They wearing them? Does a quick death sense to see if anybody's wearing bones.
Yeah, go for it. Death
No,
sense Death sense is 60 feet, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And you are doing this in the main room, like as you're leaving.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
Well, they're not
Go
gonna
for it.
like that.
With a death sense is very like passive magic. It doesn't feel like casting a spell. Like Fish would
It's
Fish would have to like concentrate on Cal to notice her doing death sense.
Okay.
I just imagine Cal's death sense is the equivalent of like closing her eyes and just like thinking for a second. It's just it's not even fully concentration. It's just
It's
honing
kind of
in
like always
something
in the
that
back of her
she's
mind, and she's just bringing it to the front of her mind in a way.
I imagine there is so much death just in the world that it's kind of like I can't listen to the bones of the possums around me. I have to ignore it 90% of the time.
You do a death sense because it is also 60 feet straight down. You do know that there is a fairly sizable crypt about 1 story down of this main room. Lot of bones there. Obviously, there's a shitload of people that are part of the house, and it's very old. So it may be like previous matriarchs, rather than like everybody. But yes, there is a very big crypt under the house here. You're looking for hand bones, and you find other bones, including hand bones. Maybe.
She's like, but where are the hand bones?
But where are the hands?
Nobody wears them? What a waste!
I think if
every servant should get like a little knuckle. What the fuck?
I think if Cal is like willing to like completely ignore like kind of the byplay of what's going on because she doesn't speak the language, if she just wants to focus on the hand problem, she can be like, oh, okay. And when they die and they put them at rest, they have saved the hand bones and they put it back to complete the body. That's interesting. But what about when the matriarch is still alive? Clearly they're stored, but stored where?
I imagine she's very like politely disassociating the way that she has learned I'm trying to say in church because I can't think of the necromancer you approve, but just like the idea of being like
temple, in service.
Yeah. Full like face it looks like being like politely waiting to be called upon because I can't understand it, but just being like, okay. What do they do with the meat? So they just let it rot?
Feed it to the rams.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They feed it to the animals? That's what I do.
There's magic telephony on, and like at some point it just floats.
You're getting the
edges
edges of this, of being like, "Hey, Cal, let's tone it down a little bit. This is pretty morbid." Feeding it to the animals would mean there's less of a waste, but then you also get the animals a taste for human flesh, and that always ends bad. Cal, let's table this for later. We're having important political discussions here.
Because like I don't understand them.
You are brought to a side room, and it is much less formal. You are offered refreshments and snacks and kind of like welcomed more fully. And the situation they want you to just to fix is kind of described to you. And I'm not going to do the character voice, so it essentially goes as follows. One of the very important things about the houses is that in order to maintain equilibrium between them, they don't hoard resources. There's a lot of things that are shared, that are public goods that are shared among them, including a nearby hospital. There is a hospital that has a magical blood donation program where essentially you can, because this is the center of a house, the house members and other local members of other houses can have their blood magically cleansed. And there is also some like other things done with it that is like implied but not outright stated, kind of like clearly like a secret they don't think you need to know necessarily, but having to do with sorceress blood in some way, as well as being a actual hospital. It is currently owned and operated by the group you are investigating, but that has not always been the case. That is a somewhat recent occurrence, but that it seems like the house knows about your history as an investigator, at least May. Doesn't necessarily know about Fish and Cal, but knows like you helped solve an important problem for the Canadian Sanctuary, and like the details of that have not leaked out, but they do know that like you were a troubleshooter at one point for something important, and they're essentially asking you to do the same because the hospital is not entirely closed, but mostly shut down because a large amount of blood, especially from the sorceress blood bank, has gone missing, and with multiple bags found ripped open and some of the blood gone, as well as attacks on a number of people who were resting and being healed there within the hospital itself, meaning that they've essentially gone to a skeleton crew of being like, there's part of the fourth floor that is being used as a hospital, and the rest is kind of closed. And yeah, they would like you to investigate and solve this problem, because while it is, their kind of home hospital, their immediate place, it is also used by the other houses, and it could be seen, if their people are involved in solving this, as maybe covering up something that they did. It's better if it's kind of a neutral party. And you know from the conversations you overheard that like they have somebody else in the house system that they've asked to investigate this, and have been working on it and been like, we can't, that was our best option at the time, but now we have a better option of somebody completely uninvolved with us. So you may be able to get like initial notes or something like that. But yeah, I think it's there's something in this hospital that's attacking people and maybe stealing and or drinking blood. And it's very dangerous, but may also give you a chance to snoop around this medical company, potentially.
Yeah, May takes this in, and like you said, brings up the says, is there anyone who perhaps might have had recent first-hand contact with the hospital that might be able to give me some more immediate information so I can begin investigating?
There are a number of victims who were attacked and survived. Some, in fact, most mortal, but some within the house that could give you a more accurate description of a creature that may not be known to mortals. I can arrange for you to interview one of them, but we do have some interview materials already from our own investigation that we can provide for you.
May says, May basically says she'll review those materials first, and then if she needs more, she'll ask them to arrange for an in-person meeting.
Okay. Yeah, he brings out some paperwork and slides it across from you. There's like kind of a composite sketch, but it's like the bad kind of a composite sketch where instead of being like, yeah, and then it was the thing that had like a chin like this, and then it was about this tall. It's just like somebody kind of like scribbled with a pencil, and then you can vaguely see like eyes in the darkness and like a little bit of kind of a frame of a face of being like, well, this doesn't help me, Now I know vaguely how tall it is. Why? But you do get from the description, it seems like there was clawing and shredding as well as bite marks, and the thing moved very fast. So nobody seems to have gotten like a clear look at it in any way. It's not totally clear based on the information you're getting whether it is one creature or multiple creatures, but it seems to. The information you're getting is that it is sort of like person-sized, but also that it has been crawling around through the air vents, which are less than person-sized. So it may be able to like compact itself, or like have flexible joints or dislocate shoulders or something like that. Or maybe it's some kind of shapeshifter in some way. And I think that. Anyone can do a probably a nature check normally, or an arcana check with disadvantage to be like, what does this all match up to?
I'll do a nature.
Okay.
I'll
11.
do a nature as well.
Okay. What about Cal?
Actually, maybe I'll do Arcana.
You're muted.
I'm good. I have crappy nature.
Okay.
I'd
It's like
like to.
outside. I haven't been there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll have a
I'm
crack
joking.
at. Sorry, go on.
Oh no, go make your roll.
Oh no, I was going to say I'm going to do Arcana, but like I'll do that while you guys.
Okay. And Arcana with
So,
disadvantage.
I've noticed while listening
And
back
you
to
can also do
recordings
Arcana with disadvantage. Yes.
that it sounds like I simply just drop my die. No, it's just that it makes an impact with something else. I am rolling properly.
I have one of these big like neoprene mats where it's like a mouse pad, but it's for the whole like tabletop mouse and keyboard, and I love it because I used to fiddle with my dice so much, and the clicking clacking of it hitting the table would be in the recordings. Now I still do that, and you can't hear it.
Mm.
Okay, Mooney.
Are you making me roll nature anyways?
No, I'm not making you. but
Arcana with
I
disadvantage.
told
if
you
want.
something and you didn't respond
Oh.
to it, so I'm just making
Sorry.
sure you heard me. You can also
did not.
roll Arcana with disadvantage. Yeah, which Ellie is also doing. Okay. For nature was a 10 for fish, I want to say.
11.
For May?
17. They use Flash of Genius.
For
Hooah.
Arcana.
Okay,
With-
just hope we don't have to do anything else today because you're 2 down.
I'm 3 down, actually. I've got a little counter on my kiln. Yeah.
With the disadvantage, 28.
No.
I got a
No.
17 and an 18.
No.
Can
Okay.
Can I take back my use of Flash of Genius?
No.
I'm looking real hard, and Cal's like, actually, don't worry about looking too hard. I got it.
I'm gonna do it in that you get different information than what Cal remembers.
Okay.
So in the whole, you will get more information because you use Flash of Genius.
Thank
to
you,
get rid of
Patrick.
your rolls.
Yeah.
I think with those those roles, all of you kind of naturally go vampire, right? Like it's attacking people. Maybe it's a shapeshifter thing. Maybe the person is small, but the vamp is bigger, and that's how it's like shapeshifting. the blood thing is kind of weird, but they do, they need it for serum sometimes, and they got the hunger, especially if they're trying to avoid attacking people. So, you know, it's vampire, right? Why is it not vampire? Um, I think with a 10, fish is probably like
11.
11. Sorry. I think with an 11, fish is probably like, Isles told me about like these weird magic leeches that attack people, but they said it was kind of like person-like and it had these eyes. I don't think that's it. Maybe there's like a Chinese equivalent of a vampire, or maybe it's just straight up a European vampire that's here. Um, what uh, May and Cal get separately is first, May thinks of the vampire thing, thinks that that's the obvious solution, which means it's probably not it, because if somebody already looked into this, they would have figured out the obvious solution. Maybe they couldn't like find the vampire if they were sure that it was one, but somebody else would have looked into it. It doesn't hurt to ask. But I think you also just kind of like are going through your repertoire of like how magic works, and you're thinking about like, well, we don't really use it modernly, but I have in archaeological research seen things about blood from sorcerers being an ancient source of magic, and I remember some of those weird experiments from the ancients in the ruins. Jonas essentially being like a composite of a bunch of different bodies, being like a lot of old magic was kind of like darker and more gruesome in this way. you know Probably vampire, maybe as a second guess, some sort of like not necessarily like a cover up, but like something weird of like maybe something needs the blood for magical reasons, not drinking, and also is attacking people. Like maybe those are kind of separate issues. And I think you're also like, hey, a big part of knowledge is admitting what you don't know, and I don't know what's local to this area. They may have a lot of creatures that fit this description that I've never heard of, but I can only do with what expertise I have, which is maybe it's a vampire, but maybe it's not, and the magic is the point. The blood is the point, and they're just kind of like attacking people to get them to leave, because you're looking at the paperwork and it's like, okay, 20 attacks, 1 death. That's a terrible ratio for some kind of wild magical creature. Maybe that's just to get people out of the hospital so it has easier access to the blood without having to sneak around as much. Maybe there's some sort of conspiracy here. With Cal's 28, your experience is the undead, and you had a phase where you were doing a lot of research from kind of like older styles of undead that aren't really used anymore in a lot of kind of older texts in your studies. And you actually know about the what is commonly considered like the Chinese hopping vampire, which is not a true vampire, but is actually a form of zombie, because it is a dead body, and you remember that, and you remember all the lore about it, and you realize this doesn't really match. Like, it doesn't really make sense, because these Chinese vampires are more like kind of ambush predators. And while that's kind of happening here, they wouldn't be like systematic enough to be like stealing blood and hope it wouldn't be missed. So it like could be a Chinese vampire or a European vampire on the surface, but you don't think it is. And with the 28, one thing that was a little bit frustrating in your studies is that of translation, because the Chinese hopping vampire is a type of undead, but there is another type of creature that is often translated as a Chinese vampire, even though it's a different word in Chinese. There's just not an equivalent concept in English. And so there's two Chinese vampires that you were having to figure out in the records doing this reading. And that other one you only know a little bit about because it's not undead, but you do know that it feeds on blood, is person shaped, and has an ability to teleport in small spaces. Not quite like a shadow walking, but like turning to smoke and reappearing in places. And I think you look at the like absolutely useless figure of a figure in darkness and being like, this could be him appearing in smoke. Maybe that's an indication of this, what this was. And so I think between the three of you, you all come up with the idea of definitely could be a European vampire, and then separately are like, there's a couple other creatures that could do this. Maybe it's not a creature at all. And if it is a creature, maybe it's this other type of Chinese vampire that works on this. Do you kind of like give your theories to Jinyi or no? Okay. Ellie's
Yeah,
nodding.
for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, we all collectively go, nose for rot too.
Nose for Ratu. Light starts flickering on and
That
off.
stinker.
Those damn Ferratu. Anyone see that movie?
Too scary.
Okay, yeah,
I
true.
need somebody to make a cut where it's all the girlie's on screen. Weird sexual tension. I love Nicholas Hoult. He can be in the cut too.
Yeah.
Any blood and gore.
I'll get it done.
Did you see it?
No.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you. I appreciate the offer. No, I might see it. I can handle horror, but Patrick can't.
It's more
Yeah.
gothic horror than like frightening horror. For sure.
How much more than Crimson Peak?
Oh, you know, I've never actually seen it. Yeah, I know.
Okay.
Yeah,
Fine. Cal's entire look is based off Edith. Her entire thing is based off Edith.
Wait. You've not seen Crimson Peak?
Yeah.
no, I just missed it. I guess I never saw
and-
it.
Okay, we're stopping session here.
Yeah.
We're getting
we're
you
watching
educated.
Crimson Peak.
The rest of the session will be a watching of Crimson Peak with me not watching because it's scary.
You could handle Crimson Peak. I promise.
could. I don't have
you
any
could be in my
desire to.
arms,
I don't
and
have
I will
any
tell you when the
desire to.
scary parts are coming up.
I don't have any desire to.
But
Crimson
it's
Peak-
gothic.
Crimson Peak seems to me like a really good gothic, kind of fucked up, weird romance story that's creepy. And then every once in a while, something truly scary happens. And I'm like, I just don't want it. Like, one is not good enough to justify the other for me.
We haven't gotten derailed like this in a session in such a long time. And I think
Yeah, it's because we're good at playing.
yeah, yeah, watch fucking Crimson Peak. Anyways, I guess I can't ask you. I'll ask my friend if it's worse than Crimson Peak, but she's biased because she wants me to join the Nosferatu fandom and fight people on the internet with her, and I don't want to do it.
Also,
Yes,
it's Guillermo del Toro.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's why you had to watch Crimson Peak, because our daddy, Guillermo del Toro, needs to direct the Skullduggery Pleasant movie, but only after Derek Landy dies. I shouldn't probably say
Only
that on
after.
recording. That's a slander.
No, it's fine. Derek Landy can fucking die in a pit. We'll keep that in the record.
Yeah, Derek,
got
if
that,
you're
Craig?
listening,
Derek, if you're listening, don't. I don't want you listening to this. I don't want you scraping our ideas. I don't want you stealing from us. You're a piece of shit and probably a pedophile.
99% sure of me, I'm like, this is definitely not happening. It's paranoia. I'm still a little freaked out about the metal copy in A Mindful of Murder. And I'm still a little like,
yeah,
Are we getting
Cadence, especially.
Yeah.
Like, that was her name.
It's fucking weird. And I'm like, if the next book is about necromancers, I'm like, I don't know. I know it's paranoia. But like, it's enough of my fucking weird soul bond with him, and the fact that I know he has genuinely, I don't want to say stalked me, but stalked me online in the past, that I'm like,
Checked up on you. Let's say. I'm not trying to
No.
downplay it. I'm
No,
just
no,
saying.
you know, it's like,
But
it's
you
such a
don't get
severe
make
word.
sure you were still under the age of consent, so it was nice and fresh.
I mean, I will say the accidentally following me on Twitter would genuinely usually be considered in the umbrella of cyber stalking. Fucking, I know what you did, bitch. You pretended it was an accident. You pretended it was a glitch. You followed me, bitch. I know what you were doing. Anyways. Vampires!
Anyway, we can clip that and just post that separately. Maybe that clip will blow up. Derek
It's
Landy,
longer than a
fucking-
minute, but we'll do it.
Yes, you give these alternate explanations to the Jin Yi, and he is kind of like, yes, we did think of a European vampire. We think it doesn't match, and we did have some spell work done on the hospital to find that there was no sign. We can't actually track a vampire, but we can track serum use because it has some magical after effects. So there's been no serum use in the hospital, so we don't think it's a European vampire. We think that's fairly unlikely. They also tend to be more destructive, and people most likely would not survive if that was the case, to our understanding. But you guys have more dealings with that, assumedly, than us. So, you would know best if that's what you want to pursue. Go for it. For other creatures, we've looked at a number of different creatures locally in kind of our ecosystem, both magical and like non-magical, but could be magically influenced. You know, the difference between like a magic leech and like a leech that somebody made giant through magic for some reason. And nothing super seems to fit. It's a little thin to go on. It's possible it's something in that direction, but you'd have to investigate. When Cal is like, what about a Chinese vampire? He just freezes and gets very awkward, and you think that you hit a nerve. Give me a persuasion check.
Me?
Yeah.
I will say Cal would have not gone into nerdy smart mode. It would have been like looking at a book, like looking at a notebook. Oh, what if it's this? And like in a way of like, she's still trying to play the character. Obviously, the two of them are
Yeah.
like, she's like, maybe it's this, and like the other two would know. Oh, this is
Yeah.
true. This is very
Never
real.
mentioned
Oh,
this
maybe this is so. I don't know if this is true, but I've heard. And they're being like,
Yeah.
yeah, that's absolute bullshit.
Then I guess because you are trying to play this role and you got a good performance check on playing that role, I think somebody else could do the persuasion check for you if you want.
I have a +5. I'll take it.
Plus
Barely.
5 is better than 4. Yes.
I got a +5, but I think it makes more sense for Cal to do it.
Oh yeah. Also, I haven't really been rolling.
Oh, you were in bed.
I
Not a
have
good-
been. Excuse
You were now, but before. Bed is not a good rolling service.
I was only in bed for like 40 minutes. That is a 14.
Okay. With a 14, he like fully kind of like stops the conversation and is like looking at you, and then you can see him kind of like in the way that like he was very like controlled and like testing you before. This is the first time you've like totally caught him flat-footed, and he was like, "Oh, no, shit, I do have to talk to them about this." Okay. Our vampires of this kind that you refer to function in a different way here than the monsters in Europe. Our vampires transfer power. And he essentially explains to you that, like, their version of a vampire can, like, transfer power between people using blood, can use blood to do certain healing magics, can also to a certain extent like empower people and like give them talents temporarily through bites. They're kind of a weird, like, they're vampires because they need blood and they have fangs and bite people, but that's like where the similarities stop. They are like actually revered kind of cultural figures. You know, in the vampires in the Europe are you know, kept out of polite society because they're incredibly dangerous. These are incredibly revered figures that are considered valuable enough and rare enough that no house can claim them. They have to be shared between the houses, and does reveal that his presence, his ability to, like, in an emergency, heal the matriarch and things like that, is why they do have a secret sorceress blood bank in this hospital, because he does come here and work out of it. You get communicated to you that that idea has crossed their mind. It's crossed everybody's mind. If one of these vampires has gone bad, it is the worst possible political situation they could even imagine. Please, for the love of God, find an answer that's not that. And I think while he phrases it much more politely than that, that's what makes it click, of being like, oh, this is the real reason that the, like, House of the Ram can't be too involved, of being like, hey, the vampire that we all share that has magical powers is bad, and we're gonna take him into custody. Is like, that's war between the houses territory if people don't absolutely 100% believe you. This is the most politically, like, important thing that could possibly happen, and that's why they need neutrality, because this is a fucking powder keg and they're desperate for you to find a solution that is not the one that a bunch of them are kind of sort of thinking, which is that their vampire that they work with is bad.
It's can't wait for it to be revealed that it is in fact their house vampire.
It's very much like, hey, we're not going to tell you what to do. No preconceived notions, but this isn't the answer. But we don't want to influence you, but genuinely find an answer that's not this one. But you're not our house, so we can't direct you. But this answer would be bad.
Yeah. Have it not be this one.
Have it be not be this one. If there's a chance it's something else, go with that one. Yes.
But like we've come into a large family, large mansion, and you know, all of the newspapers have been ripped up, and there is a dog there. But they're all like, well, no, because don't you see? The landlord said that if the dog did any crazy shit like that, we'd have to get rid of the dog, and also we'd all kill each other.
Yeah.
Because the dog is the only thing keeping the family together. It's not a perfect 1-to-1. You understand what I'm saying, though?
Yes. No, I do. And you do get the sense in this conversation of being like, if this is genuinely the answer, we will accept it. We will figure out the fallout. If 1 + 1 = 2, explore other math before you come back to us and say this is definitely the answer, because fuck do we not want it to be.
Cal as Claire Dennis just like looks at me like, oh, I'm so sorry for my presumption. Just like puts her glasses, looks like very like, oh yes, of course, we'll explore other things. Dear friends get her being like, you motherfucker. You think I like giving bad news? You think I like being like, yeah, we're all gonna fucking die? You accept it, bitch. And then you fucking find a plan to not die. Do you know how many times this has happened to me? Fuck you. But she's very like, oh yeah.
This is all just happening mentally, and the magic stuff.
It's in the it's in the group chat.
Cal was just like, "Oh, I'm so sorry," and everybody else is like, "Oh my God, Cal, you're so loud." Are you okay? Nope, it's just a headache. It'll pass. Stop yelling.
May very carefully says,
I'll
"Of course, and we will endeavour to make sure that we are certain in whatever suspicions we bring to you. However, if the situation arises and we do need to defend ourselves in a non-fatal manner, do you have any advice you could give us?"
Give me a persuasion check.
Please, God. Dirty 22.
Okay, with a dirty 22, he's like, well, you know, it's very important that you not harm this. You know, you may have to testify.
That's why I said self-defense.
And then it's like, but in self-defense, yeah, but you know, it's best if you don't have self-defense. So the option is that we kill him. What is the other option? I was like, fine. And he essentially reveals that there is a type of herb bundle you can use that if it is one of these Chinese vampires, does kind of like lock it into catatonia. And
As in if it drinks it, you mean? Not just waving at it.
as in it is thrown and aerosolized. You can turn them into like bombs. And I genuinely set the DC at 20 because this is a secret they don't want people to know.
Yeah.
So yeah, to be careful with that information. Don't share it with anybody. But yes, you are given essentially a recipe to incapacitate this creature, this being, if it is in fact it, and capture it safely. It's, you still get the sense that like they're not like, you know, they're like wise scholar vampires, not like combat monster vampires, but they're still like capable of seriously hurting you. And a detail I forgot to mention, all of the attacks have happened at night, and any investigations that have happened that have happened during the day have turned up absolutely nothing. There was a plan to investigate at night that was going to happen in a couple days until you came and offered to take over, essentially.
Cool. Time for a little nighttime adventure! Hooray!
Yeah.
Potentially.
We will literally be doing the broken half of the hostile hospital stay.
I don't remember anything that happened in that book. So
I was gonna say, Patrick is not recalling that one. We're on Miserable Mill.
Miserable Mill is very interesting because I'm watching it and going, "Oh yeah, this did happen." I think
Miserable Mill's a hard one because that's the one that fucks with you the most because it is, at least with season 1, the most changed by a lot.
Yeah.
The especially because as I told Mooney, not only did I like, you know, watch the movie a bunch, I also reread the first 3 books fairly often. I only read the rest of the books once. So there is this thing about being like, yeah, wide window, this happens, then this happens, then this happens. Any of the other books, I'm like, I vaguely recognize that this guy is a character from the books. I don't know what happens. I need to reread those. Yeah, that is your potential way that you can help, is help investigate this. You are not being relied upon to like definitely find the answer and help them before the deadline of the auction, as long as you are working on it, seemingly like actively. You can be invited. You know, they'll take your word that you'll continue to work on it, and the auction is
at
this point, I believe, a little over a week away, so you certainly have time.
Oh, perfect.
But yeah, you've got this. You get keys to the building. You get access. You get keys to the front door. You got access keys, and permission to be there. And that's that is what you can do to enter this auction. Depending on how you do, maybe with even more full support from the Heavenly House of the Ram.
Cool.
And with that, I think it is time for us to have dinner. So I think we need to end tonight's session of Well Dressed Bones.